Hey everyone, welcome to 4Player Podcast. This is episode 647. It is June 25th, 2020. My name is Nick Henderson. I am joined this evening by Brad Simons.
I'm suddenly very scared. I can't remember if Crispy said anything. We don't even know if his mic's on.
What?
Oh, he's here. Hey, Crispy.
Well, I guess we should introduce Crispy next. Crispy, hello.
Hey.
Okay, a little low, but
A little low?
yeah, just crank it up a little.
Yeah, I'm here.
That's better. Yeah.
Perfect.
Like
Absolutely perfect. Oh my God. Also joining us is, of course, Nolan Hedstrom.
How's it going, everybody?
And Christopher Davis.
Good evening.
And so it's late June. E3 is over. The Last of Us 2 is out.
Is E3 over?
I mean, I don't know. Is it?
New shit every day.
It was over before it began.
Yeah.
I guess
Pretty
that's
much.
true. I guess that's true. So tonight's, we usually talk about a lot of video games. Tonight we're gonna focus primarily on one. The Last of Us 2 came out last week. I don't know about y'all. It's kind of dominated any time I've had playing games. So we're gonna talk about it. It's either the biggest release of the year, something we've all been looking forward to. I think it's safe to say we're all pretty big fans of The Last of Us. Why are you smiling,
No
Nolan?
reason. Keep going.
Keep going.
What?
Your audio broke up for a second, but
What?
it doesn't matter, and that's one of the points of us each recording on our own.
It's sped up. You
It's
sound
going
like
to sound
a
fine
machine.
on your side.
Yeah,
Just keep going. Just keep going.
Keep
Oh,
going.
okay.
Keep going.
Wonderful. Okay, I'll just keep going. What was I saying? I
The
think I
Last
ended
of Us.
The Last of Us. We're all big fans, right?
The
We enjoy-
Sopranos of video games. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
there we go. I think that's a wonderful
Hey,
starting off point
That's a much more tasteful comparison.
in comparison to what though? That's what I want to know.
Instead of the
Oh!
list of video
That's right. I forgot about that. Yikes. All right. So I want to
Are you
specify.
saying Tony Soprano is not a great guy?
So before we get into this, we're going to dedicate pretty much the entire first segment to talking about The Last of Us. But I want to be clear: we are not going to be focusing on. We're not going to be talking spoilers at all. We're going to try our best to avoid them.
We're not going to talk about the story. Put it that
Yes.
way.
We are gonna talk mostly mechanics tonight and maybe just design and pacing.
Well, I didn't agree to that.
Hey, Crispy you have not finished this game yet. You shouldn't be talking story
No,
one way or the other.
Well, I've been in the Last of Us chat in Discord, and I've read
Everything.
spoiler. Like any black box of text, I clicked on it immediately and read it all.
Oh my God! Just thinking about that is stressing me out because
Oh my God, I feel so free.
Nah,
I feel so like light. I feel like I could fly away.
But I know you trust yourself more than some random text in a Discord, right?
What do you mean?
Never mind.
As in, he's gonna form his own opinions no matter what.
Oh yeah.
I want to hear your take.
I think
this
I
game.
think the whole. Okay, well, we'll get into it.
We're gonna get into it. All I wanted to say was we're gonna do our damnedest to avoid spoilers because we are gonna record a spoiler cast. At the time of this recording, me, Nolan, and Chris Davis have finished it. Brad's, I don't know, like a third or close to halfway through it, maybe. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure where Crispy is at this point, but
The theater, does that help anybody?
yes, it does actually. I mean, kind of. It depends on several things. But anyways, neither here
Are
nor
there
there.
multiple theaters?
Oh God damn it, Nick.
Spoiler alert.
Ruined.
You go to every theater in
How many
Seattle.
goddamn theaters are in this fucking game? Actually,
So-
that's a complaint I've heard, is that there's too many theaters.
Too many theaters? Yeah. There's too much of a lot of things, theaters being one of them. So anyways, yeah, we're going to avoid spoilers like the plague tonight. We're going to talk about mechanics, design, accessibility, things like that. We are going to record a spoiler cast at a future date once everybody's had a chance to finish it and let it the experience kind of soak in. So with that said, we don't really have much in the way of feedback from last week, so I'm going to skip that part. We're just going to kind of jump right into it. Brad's only going to be with us for the first segment. He's got to bounce at 9, so we want to make sure we get as much time in talking about The Last of Us as humanly possible. I don't know where exactly we want to begin. We have a few just talking points because there's so many different directions we could go. Maybe accessibility is a good place to start because that's kind of something that you might
I don't
experiment
know
with
about you
very
guys,
early in
but
the
I've
game.
been fucking around with it a lot, and I really, really, I'm liking it because they put so many options in there. It's sort of like make your own video game.
It is surprising that this is. I know this is not the first game in the world to do that, but it is surprising how simple those few additions can completely overhaul how you play the game and make. I mean, and Brad, you had kind of mentioned it in Discord that it like PC games have had this kind of functionality for years,
Some of this stuff.
and
Well,
it is
with mods.
shocking. Well,
This
with
feels
mods
like
as
playing
well.
The Last of Us with mods.
Yeah, I think Naughty Dog spent a lot of time ensuring that their game was accessible as it can be in a good way.
We want to
I mean,
we want to give you as many options up front as possible so that you don't go fucking with the game.
But also, like, they want to make certain that as many people as possible can play the game, no matter
No,
whatever
Yeah,
disadvantage they
you're
could
right.
possibly
yeah,
have.
I mean,
a lot of
I'm
the
a-
stuff I mean, they're called accessibility options, right? And a lot of them are, are structured in such a way that people with, maybe certain disabilities can play and appreciate the game. But a lot of that stuff is a lot of like just quality of life features for anyone, and even stuff like like just stuff to make the game to tweak the game in ways that you can't other games, like stuff like Nolan said, stuff you can do on PC, like adjust the FOV, like turn off motion blur. You can't do that in most console games.
so I have a dumb question.
But here they
because-
have it in there framed under motion sickness options. You can turn off motion blur there.
So, just kind of a dumb question because, I'm pretty new. I'm a PC gamer, guys, but I'm pretty new at it. So I don't spend a lot of time in accessibility options
I'm a
in any
PC
game.
gamer. I don't really play
yeah,
that
I
many.
mean, honestly, again, I stress the mods thing because a lot of the stuff here you don't see in most PC games.
Yeah.
Like the ability to. So one of the things I have turned on is the option to the listening mode, which I never even really used in the first game much. But here I don't use it to see enemies. I hear it to ping for items. Like there's an option you can turn on to if you hold down the listening button and you tap circle, it shows items, like circles will appear, like it'll highlight in the environment. Like a ring will go out, like you see in a lot of other games.
See, it's what sucks is that I didn't realize that was one of the options in the accessibility menu. I was just trying to do that for like the first like 10 hours of the game. I kept naturally going into vision mode thinking it was going to highlight items, but it never did.
But it's very granular too. Like you can adjust the speed at which the ring expands out, the distance, like how. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. You could, like I said, it feels like I'm making my own video game here. You play a video game, you're like, oh, I just wish it did this and this, and it would be so much better. And hopefully they patch it in. They patched in everything on day one and gave you control over it. And it's kind of great.
It's pretty fucking.
I'm really happy with the way I set everything, and it's letting me kind of make the experience I want. Like the stuff that. Like, so I don't want to spend a lot of time scrounging for stuff. I mean, you're going to in this game because it's 30 hours and that's what you do for 20% of it is look for shit, kind of, right? But like auto pickup is the thing I've been begging for Naughty Dog to do since Uncharted 1, because I hate having to pick up all that fucking ammo in the middle of a gunfight. And then Last of Us has, obviously resources you pick up as well. She does it automatically, and it's like it's very quick.
But that's a
like,
setting
it's
you
not
have to
just,
actually
like,
turn on. Is what you're saying?
You can turn on auto pickup, and it's like wonderful. Like, because in the first Last of Us, you go to a corner and you're just like kind of mashing on triangle to pick up like the 5 different things on a counter.
Brad, you know that even since the first game, if you just hold it, they'll pick up everything, right?
Okay. I mean, yeah,
you don't have to press a tab
like,
for each one.
It's really nice because
I know. I get it.
accidentally missing stuff. Now, you still press the button to like open a drawer or whatever, right? So it's not like, I mean, she's still reaching her arm and grabbing stuff. She just does it like very quickly and seamlessly. Sometimes it's awesome because you're just like running down the aisles of like a supermarket and she'll just be grabbing shit off the shelf. And I'm not.
That almost sounds
anything.
comical.
It feels great, especially with like stuff like ammo, which you can. You might have that issue where you're like, oh, let's walk over to the corpse and line myself up and make sure I'm pressing the button to get that like one bullet or whatever. She just does it automatically. It's really cool.
That sounds like something I'm definitely going to turn on for my second playthrough.
Yeah, I would.
Oh,
Just
so-
because you spend so much time doing whatever Ellie's doing right here.
But,
How far-
but that being said, like as you progress through this game, like even on the default difficulty level and everything with resources, like they are incredibly abundant. Like
Oh, yeah.
you will
They're
not have
everywhere.
problems scrounging for materials.
I am
there-
playing on. Can we say what difficulty and stuff we're playing? I guess this relates to accessibility options,
Yeah,
but
for
I
sure.
chose to play this on the default difficulty with some friendlier stuff, even for I mean, you could really adjust it, but a lot of people say, well, play on the hardest difficulty so you're more resource constrained. The reason I don't do that in The Last of Us is because I don't like sneaking around so much. I might do it, to kill the occasional clicker, but I like how scrappy the combat feels. Like I think there's a lot of really cool,
very reactionary.
very reactionary, and I like those systems. I like the way it's built. That's why I always wanted to play factions. I just never did. And because of that, I kind of like to play it more of like a scrappy survival action game than a stealth game, which you can definitely play the game that way as well too. So
It kind of sounds like we're
I mean,
transitioning into
you
combat
can-
now, which is
You can kind of do both, and yeah, we can, Nick. And
You
that's kind
can.
of this is one
Yeah.
of the first games where did I ever reset a combat encounter in this game? Yes, but this is one of the first games that when things did not go my way, I went with the flow. Like I was
Yeah.
less likely to try and do things to, oh, let me just reset and try again because I want to be like the perfect stealth guy. I really felt that you could fuck up, kind of take out maybe a couple of people, hide again, re-engage, change things up, and it really felt natural.
so
the ability to re-engage stealth is the thing that not a lot of stealth games actually have. I mean, the first Last of Us did this, and I loved it in that too. And I'm glad you still have the ability to sort of disengage and re-enter sneaking.
it's really easy. It's really seamless how you break line of sight and you can almost immediately re-engage stealth. Like some games have done it.
So it all depends on the scenario. Like, and that's one of the things I like about this, kind of like you said, like breaking line of sight. Well, you have to make sure you're not where you were, because often what will happen is if there's multiple enemy characters, they will say like, oh, she's right there behind that car or something like that.
Right.
And others will try to flank you. So
Yeah,
yes,
you gotta
while you
move.
can disengage, you have to make sure that you are setting yourself up into a location where they won't easily find you.
And also, there's a lot of the enemies in this game are. It took me a while to realize just how, and I don't want to use the word smart because I don't necessarily know what the consensus is right now on the AI in the game, but I know there were times when I did something thinking that I was like, I broke line of sight once, ran into a house, ran upstairs, shimmied through a fucking wall into another room, and I knew there were guys coming up the stairs, and I like jumped on my stomach and crawled under a bed, and I was like, I'm just gonna wait it out. And then they entered the room and started like doing like the sweep of the room, and one of the people got on their hands and knees and shined the light under the bed, and I was like, well, fuck, I've never seen that happen before.
Like, I don't want to
AI
say
is
that
good.
it's
Did you shoot
fear
them?
level AI.
Yeah, but it's good.
I said it's not fear level, but it's pretty fucking close. And that's one of the things that I like about this is that the AI is much more human than they
Mhm.
were in the first game. The way they interact, the way you move around the world. Sorry, easiest way to think about it: most video games, AI, they have a path. They go here, then they go here, then they go here, and then they repeat. They don't fucking necessarily do that in this game. They will change things up. They'll start walking, and then they'll kind of just turn around real quick and look behind them. And it's like they don't fucking often do that in other games. And so if you're trying to stealth up on them, all of a sudden they fucking turn around on you.
Mhm.
And one of the cool things about that is sometimes when they do turn around on you and they catch you, sometimes they'll yell immediately and be like, oh, she's over here. But other times they kind of freak out for a second because, oh fuck. And you can still engage them, knock them out before anyone else even knows.
Yeah, it's cool. Like if you like miss a shot or like you don't deliver a killing blow on your first attempt, you sometimes have a couple seconds to just to take them out before they have a chance to verbally like make a noise, which alerts everybody else around you. And like that's a really natural
I
feeling
don't
as
know
well.
about you guys, but I run up in melee a lot. in this
You know,
game.
because
Oh,
that's
it's
fuck
great.
stealth.
one of the things I want to say, and you know, I try to be stealthy when I can, mostly out of a sense of self-preservation in this game. But like Nolan said, when something goes wrong, I try to adapt to it and I try to resist that urge to reload as much as possible, because some of the best moments in this game, some of the craziest shit, one of the coolest things I've ever done in video games happens when I just react and I try my best to survive. And like it involves like running and like going from a run into a melee attack, and no matter what weapon you're holding, is almost always incredibly satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the best way. And I don't know if y'all saw the GIF I retweeted yesterday. The guy that you mentioned last week, Brad, I forgot his name on Twitter again. He makes those
Isn't he Legend?
amazing. Yeah. He makes these amazing GIFs. But he posted one yesterday that was just crazy, and it was because people were, you know, someone had said something about like, you know, I think it was the same person who made the tasteless, you know, movie comparison. But he said, you know, when most video games are John Wick, this game is not. And it was like, are you sure about that? And he posted this GIF, and it was insane. I was like, oh my god. She's like,
Is that the one where she does like the backwards dive into a Molotov throw?
she does the backwards
I didn't even
dive,
fucking
throws
know
the-
you could do that.
Yeah.
I did
I
not
do-
know you could jump backwards like that.
I knew you could dive forward. I did not know you
Yeah.
could dive backwards. So I'm going to be doing that every chance I get. The second time I play.
I didn't know I could throw a
game for sure.
Molotov from my back.
Yeah,
from being on
so
my
that,
back.
You can
that,
do
that
almost
is another
anything
thing.
from your back.
Yeah, when you're prone, you can do everything. And that's one thing that this game introduced is prone, which adds a whole nother layer to the stealth mechanics, the hiding in tall grass. And that kind of changed how I played things. It was something I kind of talked about with Bernadette, because Bernadette actually sat with me through this whole game, is often when guards were pacing or doing their thing, I would want to try and take them out stealthily. And like, oh, well, I'll use my silencer. But I would often be like, okay, well, I'm going to wait until they're standing in tall grass. So when they fall and die, they're hidden. Because unlike the first game, so often in this, do I stealth someone from maybe a distance, 10 feet away with like a silenced gun, and all of a sudden another person sees it. And I'm like, well, fuck. Well, there goes my like element of surprise, like they saw. But I do like that tall grass kind of thing as an element, or choosing when to take them out.
You got to right click on them and see the lines for everyone who can see that other person. Oh,
Is
wait,
that a thing?
that's Desperados 3,
Okay.
which is a very good stealth game, by the way. If you don't feel like playing this one stealth, play that.
The other thing I wanted to bring up in regards to that was, and I know this is not the first game to do this, but you know, when you do take that person out and someone else sees, they'll often be like, "Oh no, Lucas is down." Like almost all of them have names. And
Yeah, they
it's
do.
kind of bringing that realization that these aren't raining dudes down on you with like nothing. Like to other enemies, to you, they are friends. They are a team of people, and they get upset when one of their
Sometimes
team
they
members
also-
dies.
I mean, in that
sometimes there's a blood curdling scream.
in that regard, with the names of every AI having a name and like people reacting to it, it just adds to just how fucking dark this game is.
Well, here's the thing. When they were talking about the whole name thing, like everyone having names, that was everybody was saying like, "Oh my god, this game is so grim and dark and whatever because you're killing people with names." To me, it seemed less having to do with that, and just it made it seem more, you know, it made the people that you were engaging with seem less like, you know, computer controlled avatars and more like people. I don't think, for me, it didn't really have much of an effect on whether I felt guiltier doing what I was doing.
I
But
mean,
that's a whole
video
other
game.
discussion.
You kill people. Like I
Yeah.
said, I
That
just
is
thought it
another
was a nice
discussion,
touch
and probably one
that
that's
they added that in.
That is an important discussion, and one that's probably thematically important to the conversation of this game as a whole, which we should probably finish and have a spoiler cast and all that.
We are going to do a spoiler cast, and we'll go into all that stuff, I assure you. Also, I did brutally murder 2 Allens.
Sorry, Alan.
I'm not surprised. There's a couple Allens out there.
You know,
there can be some Allens.
There's something that happened to me in combat that happened to me the first time recently, probably like 8 hours in, where after a combat encounter with humans, which I guess in the grand scheme, I haven't had that many. Like, this game is very long and it's very stretched out. Maybe that's the thing we'll get to next. But at the end of I think there was only one guy left, or maybe he wasn't even the last guy, but they just sort of on their knees put their hands up.
Oh, that didn't happen to me.
That'll happen.
That never happened to me.
Do you have many?
2 or 3 times in the entire game.
And it's not
Maybe only
scripted, right?
twice.
It's not
No.
scripted, right? So
Nope.
so I brutally murdered the guy because that seemed like what Ellie
course.
would do based on trailer Ellie, which I've seen trailer Ellie. So I did that, but did I have any sort of other option?
I don't
You
know.
could've just left
so
him.
the thing,
I
yeah,
wonder what
maybe.
would
The
happen
thing,
if
the
I did
thing
nothing
was,
and walked away.
I talked with Bernadette about this. So I kind of thought the first time that happened that it was kind of a scripted sequence, because the guy gets down, or the girl or whatever, and they're kind of have their hands up and they're cowering, and when you walk up to them it says like strike, and I thought I was going to maybe like interrogate them or something and
them
become this thing, but no, you just brutally murder them.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that was going to happen. And so I was kind of confused. And then, like I said, I think it happened one other time. I killed the guy too, just because I wasn't sure if it was the last one, and I didn't want to, like, I don't know, whatever. But I did kill them. Chris Davis, you said you can leave them. Did you ever leave one? And
So I really can't say yes or no about that, because I play the way I do any stealth game like this, to where if I can stealth around it, I will, and I will save scum like it's no tomorrow. So there were very few instances where I was actually
Gotcha.
wiping out the room.
okay, that's fine.
So you were trying to just walk past encounters?
Yes,
Crawl
and
past
it was
wow.
felt very rewarding.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it.
So you're not playing trailer Ellie?
No,
Okay.
in fact, I kind of don't like trailer Ellie at all.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like trailer Ellie.
Another thing
I
want
still
to
haven't
bring
watched
up,
the trailer, so I'm not.
You've seen
not sure.
trailers.
I haven't seen the trailer
Ah.
since the.
The
first one.
first footage we saw was the kiss footage.
The only trailer
which cut away from the kiss to like her like fucking brutally murdering all these people, and then it cuts back and Dina says something about, you know, they should be afraid of you or whatever.
yeah.
But
that was the
the
E3
context
trailer,
was much different after the kiss.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to bring up about combat, and I'm not going to say it's a spoiler, but I don't think Crispy and Brad have seen it yet. Is there's multiple scenarios where there are human enemies and zombie enemies in the same area.
I wanna see more of
I've
that.
done one of those.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if y'all done it yet.
I
So
thought I
And
did
that-
one
and
of
that
those,
did
but it
happen in
didn't
the
go the
original
way
game.
I was expecting.
what happened, Chris Davis?
I was saying that did happen in the original game several times as well.
Well,
Really?
no, it didn't
Yeah.
happen until the
I don't think
DLC, and only a couple of times.
Yeah, the DLC had happened.
Yeah.
I just played The Last of Us, and I don't recall. Now, I don't have a perfect memory, but I don't recall there being many scenarios where there are human enemies and zombie enemies,
It was
and
just
you
Left
could
Behind.
pit them against each
Yeah.
other,
Well,
which
well,
I
I
fucking
can't Left
loved
Behind,
in
so.
this.
Did
Okay,
anybody
well-
see? I hate to keep saying this, but did anybody see the GIF I retweeted today with that same guy?
Yes,
but
I
it was
saw that one.
literally he
Mhm,
grabbed a
mhm,
dude
mhm.
and then waited for a clicker to run up to him, and he just shoved him into the clicker's face, and the guy
Yeah.
got torn
I
apart.
didn't know you could do that. That's so cool.
But so that was one of the things. There's this one segment where you're kind of in a dark place, and there was clickers and there was bad guys, and I would just like stand in the shadows, and like there's like a bad guy crouched behind like a cover, and he's like looking at the clicker, and I just take a bottle and throw it right behind him, and the clicker freaks out, starts running over, and like the guys are freaking out, and they're just running around trying to avoid the clickers, and I'm just kind of standing in the shadows. And then at one point, one of the guys ran up to me, and so I was like, pop, and then just let them keep going at it. And I fucking loved that.
I took out a whole room of human enemies by shooting one dude in the leg and then hiding, because they just got the whole room just got devolved into chaos, and it was awesome.
I feel like the combat's so fun. Like the combat's fun, which is sort of at odds with maybe what they want the player to feel, or what the story's kind of the themes in the game are about, right?
They do,
but like
plenty
even
to
with the
enforce
dogs,
those.
right? Huh?
They do plenty to enforce the themes outside of the combat.
No, absolutely. But it's fun, right? And when I first encountered dogs, they tell you like, oh, you can see their fucking, you can see your stink lines. So, so try to keep the dog from following your stink lines and throw a brick somewhere. And I didn't really understand. I was like, what did that text box say? I don't fucking know. And I kept playing. Malia was watching, and a dog was coming up on me, and I got my brick ready, and I fucking threw it in his face. And Malia was like, "I thought
Son
you were
of a
gonna throw
bitch.
it somewhere else to distract him."
I
And I was like, "But it felt so good throwing a brick in that dog's face."
I killed one dog, and I just couldn't. Like I tried so
stabs it,
hard
like 4 times when you
I felt
after the brick
horrible.
throw. she's like,
And so the one thing, so yes, I did in that one segment kind of figure out how they work. Yes, if you have a stink line, you throw a brick and it will distract the dog, and they kind of forget about the stink line.
yeah. that
But
I
the one
didn't
thing
get.
I found out later in the game is if you kill the dog's handler, the dogs kind of don't know what to do.
Huh.
So if you get the handler to kind of be off on their own, kill them over there, the dog
Part of me
fucking
wondered.
Why did the
whimpers and
tutorial say
cries
that? Why
over
did
the
the
person's body, which is horrible because now instead of the dog coming after and you killing the dog, you have to listen to it whining over its dead owner's body
Yeah.
the rest of the time.
It's fucked up, but
But-
at least you spare a dog.
Yes, you don't have to kill the dog. And
Which
so
is-
that's what I started doing, was literally setting up sequences where I could get the owner by themselves and kill them so the dog doesn't have to be a part of the equation.
People are so
there was-
fucking violent.
There was
Jesus
one point.
Christ.
Not wanting to kill dogs?
Yeah, what are you
Chris-
talking about?
Chris-
He just
Chris
said
Davis
he didn't kill the
Is
dog.
is killing dogs versus killing humans going to be the Zoe versus what's her face Mia
lot of people
of The Last
have
of
been
Us for Chris
sparing the
Davis?
dogs. Nick.
Oh, I
A lot
never
of people have
killed
been
a
sparing.
dog in this
No,
game.
no. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, is Chris Davis going to chastise us for choosing to kill people over dogs?
You are so weird.
I'm chastising you for killing in general.
Dude, I don't need.
That's fine.
Don't,
So-
let's not get into
so-
that because I don't know
Dude,
how
it
you play this
feels
game without
so
doing
good.
combat.
One thing we touched on earlier that I kind of wanted to revisit, and we talked about it a little bit in Discord for people who were in there, was clickers in this game. They make so much more sense than they did in the first game because they actually use echolocation, and the game didn't tell me that, and it took me a while to figure it out, but I love it so much more.
I agree with that to a point because
Okay.
there's a problem with the nav path AI with clickers that I do not like. Because
Which is what?
so you piss off a clicker that's in another room and you go away and hide and just completely break like any line of sight or any echolocation possibility of finding you, and they will automatically always find you no matter what.
Well, first
Clickers
of all-
seem to know where you are a little too much.
Yeah, they just make a beeline for you, even if you've just like gone through 5 or 6 rooms.
That's
past
okay.
them.
I'm glad it's different than humans.
I almost
honestly.
never had a situation where a clicker followed me because, for the most part, I took out almost every clicker in this game stealthily. Like I almost feel like clickers were a pushover in this game. I
I
was
recommend
never
the shotgun. That works well too.
I was never scared of clickers because the fact that they are blind and the fact that you just crouch and walk very slowly, they never hear me. I literally just would take
It's
out...
not about hearing you, Nick. It's about in the last game when a clicker was walking around and you're trying to stealth up on them and they turn around and look at you, you just freeze.
Right.
And they'll go a different direction. But in this, they will start using echolocation.
they
And if
echolocate.
you are
Yeah.
in their line of sight, they will see you and they will come at you.
Yeah, so I guess I just rarely ended up in a situation where I was in front of them while they were using their, doing their little clicker echolocation thing. I was always behind them, so they ended up feeling like a pushover to me. I was almost always relieved when I came into a room and it was full of clickers because I never felt like I was going to have trouble taking them out.
Huh. Okay.
I was more scared of runners.
Maybe this game
and
won't
other...
take me as long since I'm like doing very little stealth. Even though I'm exploring 100%, I'm doing very little stealth.
I mean, to be honest, if you want to talk about length just real quick, I
we
think
should absolutely transition
well,
to that.
if you depending on your play style, it's obviously going to vary. If I had to guess based on what I've heard about your play style, Brad, I feel like you're probably going to come in closer to like 23 or 24 hours. I was just shy of 30. I think Nolan was just over 30, right?
Yeah.
I was at 31, yeah.
Yeah.
I've tried to speed it up, like with the auto looting and the pinging of the loot, because you're going to do that shit anyways. But I'm still exploring every
it
nook
is
and
true
cranny. I don't want to
with-
miss a secret, especially when I found out I could have potentially missed a certain guitar sequence / song. I was like, man, that would have really sucked to have missed that.
I
Which,
think-
Crispy, you would have encountered a certain guitar sequence. Did you see it in the music store? In the music store when it opened up.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
So
That was a really good cover too. I really
it
liked
was. It was.
Are we moving on from combat? Because I did have a question.
No, I mean, go ahead.
If you guys
Let's
are
go for it.
done talking and would let me fucking talk.
Talk away.
So overall, just kind of like
Words.
philosophically, how do you guys feel about the uptick of violence and brutality in this game from the last game? Are you against it? Do you like it, or are you just kind of like
So
whatever?
I
honestly,
I'm
understand.
desensitized.
I mean, I understand where this game is coming from with its tone and the focus of the story and why Ellie is the way she is in it.
Have you finished it?
Yeah, yeah.
And of course you have. Sorry. And Nick and Nolan, you finished it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
But
Well,
Uh,
I can't give my opinion
first of
now. I
all-
kind of want to see what else they do.
I don't want to
Yeah.
have any conversations about theme. I've had so many conversations about theme that I want to get into when we have a conversation in the spoiler cast for sure. But one thing I will say, and I've never had this happen to me before. This game came out, I played it, I finished, I tried to talk to people in Discord, and I got this urge. I was like, I gotta write something. I was like, I want to write a fucking thesis on this game. I've never felt like that before after playing a game. So I've started writing an article specifically about like my thoughts of the theme because I have so many things I want to just kind of explore in my mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not even really talking about like, you know, capital T themes of the
Right.
Because honestly, I think a lot of the conversations around that have been really just kind of like misguided. Like, I
Yeah.
really don't think that like theme and plot are like super important here. I think this is a character piece, and it's kind of easy to forget that because it's such a like action oriented, like plot driven thing. That like the thing that really matters is like
Yeah.
the characters and their performance and their relationships and like how they're interacting and dealing with things, and like the theme is just kind of like there. The plot is just kind of like moving you from one scene to the next, and I think that's totally fine. But as for like the violence itself as kind of like a discrete part of the game, the general reaction that I've been hearing from anybody who has anything to say about it has been one of like squeamishness and disgust, and a lot of like I was getting the sense that a lot of people didn't like that they like kind of upticked the gore and the like brutality, even so far, even like folding in those other things of like, you know, giving the NPCs names and giving them a lot of like dialogue and having them like beg for their lives and things like that.
I will say this. W- One-
Let me.
well, real quick. One, the actual violence itself for me didn't register much. It doesn't seem. I mean, I know it is technically speaking more violent than The Last of Us 1 or most other video games, just in terms of its depiction and its like sound effects and whatnot.
In realism,
but
you know, it's
like
not cartoony like Mortal Kombat.
right, but like The Last of Us has never been cartoony. There was horrific violence in the first Last of Us. I honestly think um, it just didn't register much for me. I think when you start to
And I
start to
don't even think-
attribute
I don't think that the texture of violence is just in like the visuals of it. I think
Right.
there's a lot of other stuff they've added on, like a lot of like voice work to kind of reinforce that like these people are dying very painful.
Yeah, like there was one time where I shot a guy, I think in the stomach, and like Brad was saying earlier, he didn't just die. Like he let out like a blood curdling scream as he was dying slowly, like just
Right.
and it was like slowly kind of like dying in front of me.
The reason I ask is because I haven't seen anybody be like, oh yeah, this really is awesome. This really like ups the experience for me.
well, here's
And
the thing. I don't think it
I
ups the
kind of
experience.
feel that way. I do kind of feel that way. I feel like there's more of a catharsis in like brutality here, which I don't know. Maybe
Have
I'm
you-
a fucking psychopath, but like,
Did you
hold
not
on.
hear how I enjoyed throwing a brick at a dog's face?
Yeah, well, you know.
So
No, I mean,
I will
but-
say,
Did you
like,
not
I
look
thought
over
you
at
were talking
Hyde
more
and
from,
just
like,
say,
a
"I'm sorry"?
I thought you were talking more from like a mechanical like feel of the control,
Yeah, I
which
was.
everything does feel.
I don't
like,
actually
really
want to hurt a
good.
real dog.
Oh yeah, I don't think.
Real quick, and this is a thought that's keep coming back to me when this does come up, is that, you know, the people who have treated the violence like it's uncalled for or unnecessary are doing two things. One, this is going to sound maybe antagonistic. I'm not trying to, but like they're kind of splitting hairs and saying that violence matters more in this game than it does in other games when you're really doing horrific things in all kinds of video games. Two, if you're going to depict violence especially violence in such a way that you want to evoke feelings or make people think about something in any significant way, in any non-cartoonish way, I guess. I almost feel like it is better to treat violence with respect, which is
That's
to not
yeah.
sugarcoat it, not to show it what it is. Don't make it.
That's one of the obvious like themes or mission statements of this game. I feel like ever since they first started advertising this game, I think that's pretty obvious that that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, for sure. I don't
Right,
think,
and
I think
I think that honestly, I think that's kind of a surface level theme or idea that's conveyed in this game a lot, and I think a lot of people latch onto it, and I think a lot of people oversimplify it, which again is why I've decided to write write something. And to answer Zero Skies in chat, yes, I have started writing it. I'm about halfway through it, so
I'm more interested.
I'm just curious. Like, I guess I was just curious if it had like I understand it adding to like a sense of verisimilitude and thematic cohesion, but like I was seeing things where like oh, I hate this because the game's trying to make me feel bad about killing these people, but I don't feel bad about killing these people because I want to kill these people, and like so like I'm remembering like playing and like having situations where like I'm hiding and someone's walking around and they're like, "Oh, this son of a bitch got Jordan. I'm gonna fucking return the favor." And then like I throw a Molotov and kill that person very violently, and I'm like, "Yeah, fuck Jordan and fuck you too." And it's like like that almost like kind of I'm not detached from what's happening. I'm not like recoiled by what's happening. Like the brutality is almost kind of like part of the catharsis of like what Ellie is going through, and it's like I feel like I want more, like I want to
I
kill
mean,
more people because I think Ellie wants to kill more people.
I understand how you feel that way. I don't think that's what Neil Druckmann wants you to feel.
I mean,
I don't know. I mean, is there like I haven't gotten to a point in the game. Like I feel like at where I'm at in the game that Ellie is really soaking herself in the blood. And
So-
like wants that as part of like
I don't think it's gotten there yet for me. Like I think it's going to get a lot worse. And one of the reasons I want to finish this story is because I want to see how that changes her as a character and her relationships of the people around her. I think that the game's probably going to do some interesting stuff with that.
We're getting dangerously close to spoiler territory here.
You're right.
So,
you're right.
In regards to violence, I think there's a lot more gore in this game than there was in the last one. Burnett and I talked about it. I guess I'm desensitized. It doesn't really bother me as much. Some of it's kind of cool.
Well,
I do have a video. I have a video that I saved. Corrected. It's not.
It looks
on
very
my
real.
On my PlayStation. I kept the screen recording of me literally painting a room. Because I happened to set up a trap mine in a very good location that I killed 3 people at once.
Ooh.
And literally the ceiling, the walls, like the ceiling had chunks of flesh on it. That
They
started
drip
falling.
too, don't they? Yeah.
They dripped.
Nick
there was
this shit more than anyone.
chunks of flesh on the couch in the next room. Like the people's bodies were like parts of them were disintegrated. It was intense.
If there was an option,
but kind of cool at the same time. I don't know.
Old Mr.
If
Bean
there was an
episode
option
is a part of that.
if there was an option, some games have it to where you can like check a box to have like tone down the gore.
Reduced gore.
I would turn that on, which is crazy to me because there's so many accessibility options, right? You would think something like that would have been one of the first ones in the game. I can't find it. I don't know if it's in the game. I thought maybe it was in the first one.
I think this goes back to what you were saying, dude. I don't think
it
this
was
is a
in the
game where
first one, I think.
They don't want this to be. They don't want you to be able to turn off the violence in this game for thematic reasons, I think.
But I mean, what about for accessibility reasons? What about because like
Mr. Greentoe's played
that sort of violence can be like like a trigger for certain people, right? And you would think that accessibility options would want to take that into consideration. I mean, there's a lot of things that this game might want you to experience, but you can tweak so much of that with the accessibility options.
Mr. Greentoe's played the entire game in that I don't even know what it's called.
High contrast
mode.
Like
that gets rid of that eliminates the problem altogether.
I'll kill a dog in a video game, but when she gets a hold, after you hit it with the brick, when she gets a hold of it, it is so, she stabs it 4 times in the neck, and it's like, fuck, dude. I don't really want to see that. The thing is, in some games, I think I'm trying to remember a game that has it, but I think like Resident Evil games have that checkbox where you can make it a little less
Yeah.
gory. I never turn that off though, in something like that, because that's a horror thing. It's campy. It's over the top. I mean, getting your head chainsawed off is kind of cool, but here it just seems, and maybe it's because of the writing. Maybe it's because, you know, that dude's name is Jesse that I just
Alan.
stabbed Alan.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just think because it looks so fucking realistic, and because you can see her face and their face when they're doing it.
No, I get it. I feel you. It is kind of a strange omission.
Yeah,
for sure.
So my thing about
I'm very
the
squeamish in
violence-
general about knives and stabby stuff. So
Sorry, Chris
What's
Davis.
up, Chris
you
Davis?
don't want to get stabbed.
I was gonna say
no, it's more than
my thing about the violence in this game is not necessarily the quantity and the just level of realism there. My problem stems from the person, the character doing it.
Okay, that's getting
I know that, and we're not going to address that. I just say, from my perspective, what they're doing with it takes your protagonist and puts them in a light where I don't like her after a while.
Chris
And that's-
Davis.
But I have
Davis.
to continue on with this game for 30 hours.
Chris Davis. Ain't nobody gets out of this world clean.
I
Let's
mean,
talk
if you
about
play
that.
if you play the way I do, then you get mostly clean. But still,
if anything, the
we'll
way
talk
Chris
about
Davis
that.
plays is so much more shocking because
hold-
he has a
hold on.
character that sneaks by so many people, but when she finally does get a hold of him, it's just like a fucking horror show.
exactly,
Kind of crazy.
it
Well,
is
I mean,
fucking crazy.
It's kind of your
But
own fault.
Hold on. I would say that you could conversely look at it and say, well, you know, Die Hard's great, but I don't like when John McClane kills these people. I don't think he would do that. So I don't like Die Hard because John
Guys.
McClane kills too many people. Hold on. I'm saying I don't think you can necessarily say that, especially in such a story-driven way. You don't necessarily get to control what a character does when it's that story-driven. That is that character's like arc. That is their thing. Whatever they do, that's not necessarily up to you.
I mean, here's two things to say that. Number one, in The Last of Us 1,
Guys,
That's a different game.
we are this is going to spiral into a conversation where I'm going to be triggered and I'm going to feel like I need to start spoiling shit. So this can
I don't
cannot
want to spoil
happen.
anything.
I'm
I
not
know
going to
Chris Davis-
spoil anything.
I know,
Okay.
but Chris Davis is about to make me spoil some shit. Like I'm going to
Well,
have a
then
hard
shut
time.
off your microphone and give me a chance to talk. Okay.
Yeah, just
Oh, God.
scream into the void.
I just don't know why we keep on insisting on talking about stuff that's related to the story when we're going to have a whole another
Because
podcast.
it's one of
talking
the
about
more
it.
interesting parts of this
Because
game.
the
to be
violence is
honest.
a big fucking part of the story.
I know, but we're going to talk about the story
right.
on another podcast. Is what I'm
Well,
Chris
saying.
then,
Davis,
yeah,
he does have a
let's
point.
not
That's
get-
sort of the
let's-
focus of the story, which
I
we
would
will
rather
get
have a
into.
conversation where I can freely talk about the
Let's-
things I want to talk
Let's
about.
bring that up on the spoiler cast.
Can we
Fine.
talk about how
Then,
long
then
and
my
stretched
other
out the
point will be
thing is?
just fine.
Oh.
Okay. My other point, when you get a hold of somebody, when you sneak up on them and you grab them, number one, you don't have the ability to knock them out or do anything with them.
I did not
all
like
you
that.
can do is like fucking kill them. And when you kill them, you just stab them in the fucking throat and in the heart and throw them down the ground. And then Ellie always says some quip like fucker, shitter, asshole, something like that. Just like, it's so angry and hateful. Like, I can't get
Yes.
past that.
But that's the whole. Okay, so this is why we
Yeah,
can't have
we're-
this conversation. But I
This
will
is
say
still
this:
getting into story spoilers.
the closest
kind of. I mean,
thing, the closest thing I've come to being able to not brutally stab them in the neck, I think if I remember correctly, when you're holding them like a hostage or whatever, if you hold L1 to like run and you run towards a wall and then hit the melee button, you'll smack them like into the wall, and I think it knocks them. I don't know if it's implying that you've thrown them so hard they're dead, but I was just telling myself I've knocked them out.
If it makes you feel any better,
he's
she does
sleeping.
collect comic cards.
He's sleeping really hard.
they're trading cards, Brett.
Uh,
All right. Anyway,
Sorry, I don't know where
It
this fits in.
I do have a lot of nostalgia for the the Marvel cards that everybody collected in the 90s.
Me
I
too.
collected those a bunch, and this is clearly evoking those, I think, specifically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, those cards made me think, like, did not at one point want to make like an Overwatch knockoff or something? Or
I almost read all of. I think I read almost all of those cards because some of them were actually really
like
interesting. Like some of the concepts for some of the heroes and villains and stuff, I was like, oh, that's pretty neat.
like the
I
Neil
don't know.
Druckmann one, which was a villain, of course.
Dr. Uckman.
Did anybody get
Dr.
the sense?
Uckman,
Did
and,
anybody
yeah,
get the sense that that
his
was like some
brains
kind of
were
low
100.
key like joke about the crunch situation? Like
No, I don't
No,
think that's
it's
what
not.
they meant that as. No,
I know,
Yeah.
but like, did anybody? But I know but they didn't mean it that way. But did anybody read it that way? Because I read it that
Sure,
way.
yeah. I mean, he's a villain, right?
I almost was like, oh, it's like maybe that was not the best thing to include in the game.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
they probably meant it as a tongue-in-cheek way, not really having any sort of self-awareness, but
yeah,
it is what
Yeah.
it is.
right. I don't know where this fits in. I was gonna tell the story back when we were talking about the dogs, but I just wanted to get it out there because, like I said, so much of the fun, like reactionary combat, just comes like accidentally in this game. And I there was one point kind of in that area, the area where you first encounter the dogs, like that was in that one of those first
Yeah.
demos they did a long time ago, right? And I was setting mines down around. I was like setting up a house. I was in a house and I was like, I'm gonna set up choke points and like set bombs by like certain windows in case if I end up getting caught, I'm gonna run back here and use this as kind of like my standoff point. So I
Sure.
set a bomb by a window, right? And I went to go. I saw a dude walking past a window, not realizing he had a dog on a leash with him because I couldn't see the dog. So I shot the man in the head, and the dog jumped through the window and fucking exploded. And I
Jesus.
wish I had saved that video.
So you can
that is-
I felt
masturbate
so
to it at
bad.
night.
Nick, that is one thing I will bring up.
Fuck you.
That is we didn't talk about it in the PS5 conversation, but I really fucking hope they fix the saving video thing, because I play in HDR, and when you save a video,
yeah.
it does not retain the HDR and it looks like shit. And I really
It
hate
does
that.
look like shit, yeah.
As I hope that's something
real
they
quick,
fix.
We're getting close to Brad needing to leave, but
Yeah.
we haven't mentioned like the upgrade system and the workbenches
Well,
or anything.
Is that all that really interesting? Honestly, if we're talking about in the grand scheme of this conversation, that might be needing to end soon.
the
That stuff's fine.
animations that go on with upgrading stuff is cool because each one is unique and they actually show off upgrading the actual
We
weapon.
haven't-
But other than that,
True.
like, there's nothing else that needs to be said about it.
Sure.
We haven't talked about the fact that the game is 30 hours, which is like twice the length of the first game. And
It's hard to talk about though that
what
without
about pacing and
well, here's what I'll say
That's
about
that's all story related stuff that I would love to talk about, but we're not talking about it
the
today.
thing is, my favorite. I've always loved Naughty Dog since they started doing Uncharted, right? And the things I love about it, are the things that they're really good at, right? Which is why I want to get to like the cutscenes in the next story moment. They have good character relationship moments of just people talking like adults, and it's great, right? They're good at that shit. Their performance capture, the writing performance, all that stuff's great. I feel like that stuff is really stretched out in this one. I mean, they're further apart, and that's the stuff I want the most. But I feel like I have to scrounge through 18 buildings before I get to that next cutscene, and I'm like, I'm a little deflated.
There is so much story and dialogue and cutscenes in this game. So much of it
Because it's 30 hours, of course.
Yes, but what I'm saying is like.
It's a more backloaded. You'd say,
I think it may be. I think it may be more backloaded.
Okay.
And I can't say that for sure. I would honestly probably have to play it a second time to like really kind of figure that out. But
that reward to me is more appealing than what I'm going to get when I scrounge through this building, which I'm going to do anyways. I can't not do that. That it makes me want to skip side stuff, which is crazy because I don't do that.
All I'm saying is that I'm the same way you are. The carrot on the stick for me in this game are those moments, are the dialogue, the interactions between the characters, and the cutscenes. By the time I finished this game, I did not at all feel like there wasn't enough of that, or that
Okay, well, I'm just saying for
There's a
me,
lot.
it feels like this is going to be a lot of buildings I have to go through because none of the buildings are like you see all these buildings and you're like, well, some of these I'm probably not going to be able to get into, but no, you can go into all of them.
I know.
It's
But there is some genuinely cool stuff hidden in those optional buildings.
Sometimes, yeah.
Some cool puzzles,
Comic cards.
some environmental puzzles. A lot of them involving ropes, which were kind of interesting to try and
Well,
solve.
the ropes were great, but
Brad,
again, I've only
where
played a
you
third
are
of it,
in the
so
game, I will
not many
say
puzzles yet.
where you're at in the game, I will say that you're going to find the game to be getting a little bit more linear, so you're not going to have to search quite as much.
But
I don't-
even when it's
I don't
is that
even think
true?
that's necessarily accurate. I mean, there are certainly linear sequences in this game, but one of the things I'm not spoiler related necessarily, but just saying, just on a general level, I was kind of shocked. This game is 30 hours, and I've played games that are 30 hours before. A lot of those games tend to recycle environments a lot.
Yeah, which
There
is
is almost no. There's a couple exceptions, but there are almost no recycled environments in this game.
It's-
Everything is new. Everything is free. You go and like the setting they chose of Seattle, they take full advantage of in some really exciting, interesting ways.
You're right, and it's impressive. Obviously, they spent countless man hours generating like new, fresh art assets. But I think the other big difference between this and other long AAA games, which it seems like every AAA game is very long these days, is that this is not structured like a lot of those games that are so long, right? You know, you play an Assassin's Creed game and it might be really long, or you know, some RPG and it might be really long, but the kinds of stuff you're doing to fill up that time might be side quests, it might be spending time in menus, it might be grinding, it might be doing mini games. You know, in this game, it's just playing The Last of Us, and I think that's what makes it feel kind of long and drawn out because I don't feel like I have a lot of control over how and when and where I spend all that extra time. It's just a long ass game.
All I can say is there are. Chris Davis might be right. I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking like it might be backloaded because for reasons that I can't go into for spoiler reasons. That's a hard thing
We'll
to
talk about it in the spoiler cast.
It's a hard thing to talk about without spoiling things. So like I think we should cap it right here. We've covered a lot of ground. We'll touch on more mechanical situations. I mean, we'll be able to hear from Crispy and Brad more about their
Also, fuck all those
experiences.
notes. There's too many notes.
I like
think,
the notes in this
I think
game.
that's to fill out the space and how long this is with story, but I don't want my story delivered that way in Naughty Dog games.
But
I'm not saying that stuff is poorly written, but like
that is not what takes up. That was not what takes 30 hours in this game. I 100% guarantee you.
But there's a lot of it there, right? There's a lot of fucking notes. A lot of that's sometimes is the
they're usually short and
defining.
can be read in like 15 seconds. Like it's
but you have to get to the end of the 15 seconds before you realize the note was boring.
Are you in that big of a hurry?
Would you rather have audio logs
I
listened to while you're walking around?
I want to get to the next cutscene, man. I want to get to the story that's not
Dude,
in the
there
notes.
is story happening all around you in this game.
Lore
Almost
in the notes.
there is story happening
background.
all around you all the time in this game. Maybe not character
I know.
story.
The BioShock kind of like, you know, there's a dude laying in a corner with a gun in his hand and a tipped over bottle of whiskey. I get it. That stuff's great too. I'm talking about the notes, man. I think that's to counterbalance the fact that this one's more spread out.
But like
you didn't
when you get to the end of this game and you look back and you think about the notes, it is inconsequential. There is
I know, which means I need to be paying attention to them, right? And I don't want to
wait to the notes.
Yeah.
I mean, the only like real.
I saw a headline that says most like the something like most of the story happens in notes, or like the important parts of the story happen in notes, or.
I will say that 90% of the notes that you get in this game are all about like back history and way past stuff, like stuff that's not relevant to the current happenings of the game. So
I will
don't
say
worry.
2 things.
I would say like maybe 60%. I wouldn't go as high as 90. There definitely are plenty of notes that are kind of relevant to what's going on like right now.
The notes that you find in like desk drawers and stuff, the only ones that serve like a functional purpose that are, that you might care about are things that like are attached to like giving you safe combinations.
Okay,
but
which is also kind of sloppy.
The notes that I recommend you always read. Check her journal frequently.
Yes.
There are moments when time has passed in the story, and if you open her journal and start flipping back the pages, there are notes that like tell you things that happened to her that you didn't see.
I think the good clue for there's new journal stuff is when you encounter something in the world, she makes a note in her journal. Anytime she does that, I always flip back to see what has been added since the last time I looked.
And there's some good stuff in there.
Look,
like,
I'll say this. There's one sequence in this game. Again, there might be more. I'm still only. I just only played a third of it. Look, people might consider this a spoiler. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that there was a flashback sequence. I'm not gonna say what happened.
Okay, yeah.
But like when I realized I could read through her journal in that, I was like, that's cool. I didn't think I was gonna be able to do that. And when I could, I was like, that's a nice touch.
Yes, and there's a lot of little. The journal becomes pretty important, and it's one of those things that like you can skip all the notes in the world. I would not fault you for it, but the journal is one of those things you need to read.
Yeah.
It's very much the same way as like Red Dead Redemption 2. Like the notes in that, the journal is there's so many cool things that you find in that journal as well that like fill out the character and fill out the story in interesting ways. The ones that you kind of find that had nothing to do with Ellie, you know, if you skip them, whatever.
One last thing, I think Naughty Dog can work on their puzzles. You know, look at fucking. I mean, they're. I mean, these save combinations are most of these are a joke, right? And not even that, but like just have more puzzles. They could fill out time, less scrounging for resources and reading, you know, boring notes, and more maybe puzzles. Look at how
I miss Uncharted puzzles.
Well,
God of War.
Yeah, I mean they're not great in Uncharted, but at least they're like, I guess
they're better than this.
to the setting, right? But even there, like, look at the God of War, Sony's last super prestige game or whatever the fuck that made a 96 on Metacritic or whatever, right? That game was filled with really tricky puzzles. There's no reason Naughty Dog can't do that shit. Come on.
Did y'all see what Gigamir said in chat? And I think I read this too. I haven't done it myself, but I think you can crack the safes by listening. Like,
What?
you know, yeah, like by listening for the click when you're turning it. If you turn it super slow, I think I read that something. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of little tiny details in this game. They're pretty incredible. And I think I saw that as being one of them. But if that is true, it's fucking nuts. But
At
like,
the end of this, we should do a top 5 worst safe combo puzzles.
Dude, what I will say is there are some of the safes that you crack in the later part of the game. Finding the answer to the combination is more involved, and
it's not always you don't always find it in a note.
Yeah, sometimes you have to explore in a huge environment and think about where someone might realistically hide.
Okay. But early in the game, you get this note that has a bunch of list of gate codes. It has this list of all the gate codes, and you just have it in one nifty little note. You find one safe, and right next to the safe, it says West Gate Code, big arrow pointing at the safe. Like, come on. It's absurd. But it's whatever. I'm really enjoying my time with this game. We will talk about this, I'm sure, for the next couple of weeks and a spoiler cast. So
absolutely. Crispy, did you have something you wanted to say before we end the conversation tonight?
Stacy's phone number.
Stacy's phone number.
That's true.
Looking for a good time.
Oh man, this game's cool. Just from a mechanical standpoint, for sure.
I do totally feel what Brad's feeling though. Like the fact that it's like, why did you even make this a puzzle? Just tape the note to the safe with the code on it,
or just open the safe and leave the door open, so we don't even have to do it. Come on.
I like how everything
Just
lying
make this a
around in the
cabinet.
post-apocalypse is exactly the stuff you would want in a post-apocalypse.
Yeah,
ironically,
bullets, pills.
Nobody picked over. Like,
You know,
ironically, the one safe, because Nolan was like, haha, Nick didn't get missed a safe, and I was like, yeah, it was the first safe in the game. I went back and got it, by the way. By the way, speaking of accessibility, the chapter and encounter select is so awesome.
Yes.
After you finish the chapter, you can go back to any subset of that chapter. You can go back to any specific encounter, like with enemies, from the main menu, and you can use that to jump around and fill out the trophy list and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. But the one safe that I missed was the very first one in the supermarket, and it's the one where it's like it was like the code is the month and year that my dog was employed.
It didn't say my dog. It said my good boy.
Oh yeah,
My
my
good
good
boy.
boy is
My good boy.
employee of the month. And like I remember scouring that environment looking for a dog because I was like, that's got to be a dog, like employee of the month thing. And I didn't see it. And then I went back yesterday and I went to that chapter, I think, to do this footage. And I was like, oh shit, it was like right there. Fuck. But man, lot to unpack here. Like Brad said, we'll talk about this probably quite a few times on future shows. And we're gonna do a spoiler cast as soon as Brad and Crispy have a chance to get through it, because there's a lot of stuff there that we want to unpack and get off our chest to talk about.
Hopefully before August.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be a problem. I will say this: you know, a lot of the discourse around this game is heavy and not fun. But I want to send a shout out to our community, because everyone has been, despite even those with varying opinions on the game, everyone's been very respectful, and I've had a really good time talking about this game in the channel and Discord. And it's the only place I really feel comfortable talking to people openly about the game, outside of obviously with you guys on the recording on this podcast, because it just gets a bit too intense and a bit too disrespectful outside of our community. So big shout out to everyone at the 4Player Discord for genuinely being awesome talking about this game. But yeah,
Hey, before we end the segment, can I quickly do my 4-player minute, like a quick one?
yeah, of course.
Because I got to go.
All right.
I'm going to go. Are you
Go.
telling
It's
me to
taking
go?
so long,
Okay.
Brad.
4-player minute.
You're already 10 seconds in.
4-player minute is the time of the show where we talk about what we want and no one else cares about. I have 2 hypes and 2 fuck yous for this week. My first hype is for Cyberpunk 2077. There's a lot of new Cyberpunk today, including like a new fucking Cyberpunk anime.
You can change the size of your dick.
And choose your pubic hairstyle, apparently, right?
Apparently,
There's
some
only
studio
one
trigger
vagina
or whatever,
option.
some
That's
shit
okay.
that Chris Davis likes and some other anime fans like is doing the anime. That's really
Trigger's
cool.
a good studio.
Akira Yamaoka is apparently doing the music for the anime.
That's cool. My other hype is for Sam Barlow announced his new game.
Oh, that looks so cool.
It's going to be horror, I'm pretty sure. Which is
I didn't hear about that.
It's like Project
it's got a weird name, and I think that's just a working title, anyways. But
Is there a trailer?
no, there's no trailer.
No, go to the Steam page for it. It's crazy. Like the name's like redacted.
Every time when I was playing Her Story, but especially when I was playing Telling Lies, I was like, oh my god, this should be a horror game. This would be the greatest horror game of all time if this was a horror game. And he's finally doing something that seems pretty horror-y, which is very exciting to me. Hopefully it's just like Telling Lies, kind of. My first fuck you is preemptively. It's going to go to this season of Smash Brothers. You know, they showed off the first character, and it's an ARMS character, and she's fine. She's cool. They went with the ramen chick. Y'all know ARMS. There's one who has like ramen arms, which is fine, right? But I'm gonna give him a preemptive fuck you, because I know like there's gonna be no Advance Wars representation. So fuck you, Nintendo. My last fuck you goes to Chris Avellone. Maybe I'll talk about that in the next segment. But yeah, he was kind of like a legend, and you know, someone his name being attached to something meant I was interested in it, and now it's like whole different context, and so fuck that guy. Anyways, that's it.
Cool. Well, thank you, Brad. I know you originally weren't sure you were going to be on the show tonight, so thank you for being here. That was a good conversation. We will cut for a break here in a second. We'll come back and we'll do mostly community stuff. We can talk. There's a few news topics just real quick to rattle off, including Chris Avellone thing. But we'll answer some questions from our supporters on Patreon and Twitch. I think there's an Osama bin Affleck question again.
Oh
so
no!
I look forward to that.
Damn it!
Yeah. The infamous mayonnaise question from last week. We'll see what he can do this week. It'll be interesting. So yeah, we'll cut the break. We'll come back. We'll do some questions and wrap up the 4-player minute. It's probably a little bit of a shorter segment, but we'll see. If you're watching us live, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. We have a couple news topics we want to go over before we move on to community this week. I want to start with Brad mentioned this at the tail end of the first segment, so I figure we should probably start there. Chris Avellone you know,
Mm.
he's kind of a big name in this industry. He the sad thing about this. So Chris Avellone was recently outed for sexual exploitation or misconduct with women aspiring to get into the video game industry. I don't know all the specifics. I don't necessarily want to know. It turns out he's just a big shit stain. So, but the reason this is kind of a big deal, I mean, from the industry standpoint, I suppose, is his name has kind of been synonymous with good, solid writing in like pretty much any project that he's attached to. He's one of those names when you hear his name attached to a project, you've always been like, oh, that's exciting. He currently was working on Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, but perhaps
And
more
the
importantly,
Dying Light. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
yeah, Dying Light 2 is probably the more high profile one right now. And ever since he was actually, I think Brad said this earlier, I think he was actually on stage when they announced that game because everybody knew.
Dying Light 2?
Yeah. He was
E3 2018. I remember I think because we were here watching it, and he
Yeah.
came out on stage and talked about the game for like a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, and it turns out he's been removed from those projects. I think 3 projects so far he's been officially removed from, and I'm sure those probably won't be the last. He has his name, or he has his, hand in a lot of different projects right now. So I would not be surprised if by the end of this week he's not really attached to any of them. I don't think anybody wants to be associated with him at this point.
Yeah, but
he's
they're
being
not going to
black-
get rid of any of his work at this point. Like,
Oh, well, no,
all those projects are
and-
way too far along.
Sure, and
Well, that's not how that works. Like when you get a job at a company, whatever you produce, you don't own it. That company
Yeah.
owns it. So yeah, like
Yeah.
anything he's contributed to Dying Light, that belongs to them. They get to use it. He can fuck off now. He's one of those scenarios. So
Yeah, and we don't know any of the specifics as far as like if anybody knew this was happening or was complicit in it. All we can really say right now is, the companies, when this news came to light, acted quickly. He's been removed. It's the right thing to do. I don't think the projects that he was attached to are necessarily in any danger. He was collaborating with a group of creators who were working on it. So they're either going to pick up the slack or they'll find someone to come in and finish the jobs. But I think just, it's just one of those things where it's like, it sucks that and yet another person that a lot of people in this industry looked up to or aspired to be turned out to be a shitty person.
Yeah.
But you know what? Can't really say much else other than, I guess, good riddance, because that shit's inappropriate and we don't want any part of it. So with that said, I am still looking forward to seeing what comes of Dying Light 2. I think we're going to have an update on that here pretty soon. They said they were kind of near the tail end of development. In fact, I think I'm usually surprised to hear like writers are even still actively working on the games so late in development, because I feel like a lot of that stuff would have already been done ages ago. But I guess not. I don't know how these things work, but we'll see. Anybody have anything else to add to that? I guess that's Brad, between what we just said and Brad said, I think we got it covered.
Good.
I might have
Real
missed
shitty.
it, real shitty. But in case you didn't mention it, apparently most of his work on Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 has been overwritten. So
Damn.
his impact in that game is not going to be that significant.
Gotcha. Also, just as we mentioned briefly, we told you he's been kind of an important name in the industry, but we didn't really rattle off some of the stuff that he's worked on in the past to kind of give you an idea. He's been like lead writer on Star Wars: Knights of the Republic 2, Prey.
yeah.
Yeah, Prey was a big one.
Lead designer on New Vegas.
New Vegas, Baldur's Gate, senior designer on Baldur's Gate.
Or senior, yeah.
Baldur's Gate. There was a Baldur's Gate 3 before the Baldur's Gate 3 we're having now. I didn't know this. He's worked on Baldur's Gate, Fallout 2, Neverwinter Nights, Alpha Protocol. He was the lead writer on Alpha Protocol. If you remember, the writing in Alpha Protocol is kind of the thing that most people love that game for.
He was a writer on FTL Advanced Edition. No.
Yep. And Divinity Original Sin 2. A lot of games, Into the Breach, a lot of the games that we here love. So Jedi Fallen Order, he did some writing on that. Oh, the other project that he's currently working on that has not released yet was the System Shock remake. So
Mm-hmm.
he had his hands in like all kinds of projects. So I wouldn't be surprised if he is officially removed from that soon. But we'll see. I guess we'll update this story on a later show if he's dropped from other things. He probably will be. I mean, he's being blacklisted, so we'll see. Fucking sucks. The other thing, on a more positive note, perhaps, we've been wanting to see updates, or we've wanted updates on what Rocksteady, or I guess more specifically Warner Brothers, has been working on as far as Batman games go, between Rocksteady and WB Montreal for quite a while. In fact, WB Montreal has already been teasing their project forever, and we haven't seen anything of it. But Warner Brothers registered 3 new domains, and I want to say that these have been confirmed as I think Eurogamer has done some research and confirmed that these are the official titles of their projects. Brad claimed that they were official now. I don't know exactly what he meant by that, but they filed 3 new trade or domain name registrations this week for, I guess, Chris Davis, you have them in front of you, don't you?
Yeah. So the 3 domains were suicidesquadgame.com, gothamknightsgame.com, and then Suicide Squad killthejustice.com.
And I think so. Supposedly, the project that Rocksteady has been working on is Suicide Squad. I don't know if that's Kill the Justice League is the official like subtitle of that game or what, but that kind of, if this does turn out to be true, that kind of paints a clearer picture of what Rocksteady has been working on, or what to expect from them. I think we all kind of assumed Suicide, because they teased Suicide Squad at the end of, was that the end of Batman Arkham Origins? I think. Oh my.
I think they ever teased that
so.
at all.
Yeah, no. The last like post-credit cutscene of Origins was Deathstroke being recruited for the Suicide Squad. Do you remember
I don't
that?
remember that at all.
X.
Yeah. Am I crazy?
Are you thinking of the Justice League movie?
Yeah, that's the Justice League movie.
No,
That's
no,
what
no,
happens at the end of the Justice
No,
League movie.
I remember
that was Deathstroke. Wait, what did you say?
I said Deathstroke.
Deathstroke's not in Suicide Squad.
No. I'm talking about. Okay, no, you're thinking of Deathstroke, who appeared at the end of Batman versus Superman. You son of a bitch. Y'all are fucking me up. I'm talking about, there was a cutscene at the end of Batman Arkham Origins where Deathstroke is sitting in a jail cell and he's approached about joining the Suicide Squad. Oh, was that Deadshot?
Yeah,
Maybe it was
Deadshot's the one
Deadshot.
from Suicide Squad.
Deadshot was in Suicide Squad.
What do you... Guys, I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about the game, you son of a bitch. What?
Well, hold on. But when did they approach Deadpool?
Fuck off, Nolan. Just fuck off. I hate y'all so much.
Yeah, but
Just
so
killed my train of thought completely.
supposedly this Suicide Squad game is Rocksteady's next title, and Gotham Knights is the WB Montreal Batman title.
And that makes sense.
Is that Knights with an S, plural Knights?
Yes.
What the fuck does that mean?
I don't know. Also worth mentioning.
What does that mean?
I mean, here's the thing,
name,
though. If they follow up on how they ended Arkham Knight, then that might point towards that.
Well, here's what I want to point out. If GothamKnightsGame.com implies that the game is going to be called Batman Gotham Knights, it's the first Batman game since Batman games became huge that doesn't have the word Arkham in it. So I wonder if that implies that this is maybe completely disconnected from that universe and a totally reimagined Batman. I kind of hope that's the case. I would love to see new interpretations of Batman in video game form that are just building on what made the Arkham game so great. And they've already been teasing this project for a while, and they've even shown like logos and stuff that kind of hint at the Court of Owls, which looks cool. I think all these things thematically sound like they fit together, so I would be shocked if we don't find. I think the rumor right now is I think they're going to be showing off both of these games in August at the DC, what is it called? DC Fandom event? I don't know what it's called. They're doing some like digital online like DC Comic-Con type thing, and I think the plan is to unveil one or maybe both of these games at that event. So I don't know. It's interesting. I hope these both prove to be true. I've been really worried about what Rocksteady is working on for a while. Suicide Squad sounds like it could be really cool.
I mean, it's been 5 fucking years since Arkham Knight, so
Hey, it's been 7 years since The Last of Us, so these, we've waited this long before for a sequel in other areas.
Half-Life.
Thank you. It's been 13 years.
We're not waiting on a sequel for Half-Life.
but the difference is that you count individual projects that they worked on since their last title, and it's been 5 years for Rocksteady since they've announced a new project.
And that probably implies this is going to be a big ass game. Big ass game.
We can only hope, man.
It's gonna be massive. It's gonna be massive.
I just want them to announce
girthy.
a game.
Is that the answer, though?
What?
Is that really what we want to see?
No, I'm just saying it's probably indicative of the weight. The length of the weight is probably indicative of the size and scope of the project.
I tell you what, though,
right?
The visual fidelity of this game is probably going to be fucking staggering.
I mean, it's also safe to assume at this point those are both going to be next-gen titles, which would also explain why they've been waiting so long to announce them.
But, I mean, look at the visual fidelity leap that went from Arkham City to Arkham Knight. That was just holy shit.
It's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be cool. I'm just saying, when you think about the fact that The Last of Us 2 was in development for 7 years, suddenly it makes sense that game was 30 hours long. So, anyways, I think we'll probably revisit this in August, because I would be shocked if we haven't heard more about these projects before then. So that's pretty much it for news. Oh my god, Taco's playing the fucking loud ass toy right there. Get out of here.
My life.
Sorry. Anyways.
Well, there were a couple other news topics that we had to mention.
Okay, go for it.
For example, Microsoft has killed Mixer.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that sucks for a lot of people. I thought Mixer is that even a year old?
It's several years old. Yeah, it's been around for 4 or 5 years.
I just remember there was a big wasn't there a big shift from partners that were jumping ship on Twitch and going to Mixer within the last year?
There was definitely a few of them, yeah.
Didn't they sign a $10 million contract with Ninja for that? Last year?
Ninja was he also reportedly paid $30 million to end Mixer contract.
Jesus fucking. Oh my god.
Fuck.
And, oh wow.
The scary thing is that that's probably not even really that big a deal. I mean, you know what I mean? It's just if you have $30 million to drop just to end a contract. Oh my god.
I don't really know what that means. That seems too much money.
Has he said what he's doing now? Or is he just gonna go back to Twitch?
Come back
I don't think he's actually said.
Yeah.
Or is he just gonna retire and never do this ever again? Because that's what I would do at this point.
Only. Dude, I hate that guy.
Yeah, once he's out of the way, we can finally get back on the light, guys.
Ahead. We can spring to the top of Fortnite content where we belong.
What else you got, Chris? You said there were a few news topics you wanted to.
So pour one out for Ready at Dawn, because they got bought out by Facebook, and they're going to be working on nothing but Oculus projects from now on.
Hey, I will say this, as someone who's been really enjoying my time with my Oculus lately, I'm not ready to pour one out for Ready at Dawn yet. I like Ready at Dawn as a studio. I like my Oculus Rift a lot. I hope they make something cool for the Oculus Rift. I feel like they've been practically unutilized at Sony lately, so maybe Facebook will actually give them some exciting projects. I think a lot of people were more upset that there's some people out there who have been really desperate or waiting for a sequel to The Order 1866 or whatever that was called.
1886.
How small is that crowd?
Thank you. Probably pretty small. It could have been cool, but I never for one second thought that was ever going to happen. But anyways, oh yeah, they did Lone Echo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did Lone Echo, and that's an Oculus game, and that I've heard great things. That's on my list. That's on my watch list. I want to play that on Oculus for sure. So this could be a good thing. I mean, for them as a studio, it limits their audience maybe, but hey, they'll probably make some cool stuff now.
Yeah. And I guess 2 more things. We got a few announced titles this month or this week.
Mhm.
It was leaked shortly before we ended the show last week, but there's officially a Crash Bandicoot 4 coming
That's right.
and launching really fast, evidently.
And it's called About. What is it called? About Time.
It's about time.
About time.
It's about time. I
Yeah.
just heard that in Crispy's voice.
And it's being done by Toys for Bob. They were the developers that did the
Spyro
Spyro
collection.
trilogy, the Spyro Reflamed whatever trilogy.
No, it's worth. That's a really great remaster, but like it is a remaster. This is a completely original game built up from the ground up by Toys for Bob. So
Yeah.
well,
I think
wait
that's
and see
okay.
how
though.
that turns out.
I think
Oh,
it's
it
just
could be
fine
cool.
if they've learned their lessons from that development. Then yeah.
They've learned their lessons.
Yeah,
And
and
what else
then the other thing I was going to mention, Inti Creates is making a sequel to Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon.
Oh yeah, I just saw that headline. I didn't make
I
heads or
did not
tails of
hear
it.
that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so they're working on it. It's going to be a multi-episode storyline, quote unquote, supervised by Iga.
Cool.
And Zangetsu is going to be the lead, alongside 3 new characters.
We're specifically referring to a sequel to the not Ritual of the Night, but the
Yeah,
what was it?
the 8-bit
Old school throwback one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool.
One of the new characters is named Hachi, and he's a corgi wearing steampunk armor.
Sold.
What?
Like, I see
I'll
no
take.
issues with this. Yeah,
I will take 2, please.
Take all of them.
Yeah. So actually, pretty eventful week. So
yeah.
Corgi.
but for now, let's move on to community. We got some stuff. We got some questions. Right? Am I right, Nolan?
We do.
From our
We
supporters on
surely
Patreon.
do.
and
You ready to start
Twitch.
those?
Yes. Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. I don't think it was mentioned today, but not too long ago, we kind of changed the process of how we take questions. No longer are we posting threads on Patreon, but instead we have a Google forum, which at any point in time, you can go fill out that form. I said forum.
did say
Google
form.
form. You can any point in time go fill that out, and it gets added to a list, and we will eventually get to your question on that list.
It's been working out pretty
Um,
nice, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So the first question this week from Finding 404. If you guys have the money to make your own game development studio, what video game do you really want to make? Will it be a game with unique mechanics that could be hit or miss, or a game with its game mechanics being too formulaic along with other AAA video games? So essentially, would you go for the safer route or the more unique kind of out there kind of thing?
I feel like my first instinct is to say, honestly, I would probably lean towards what some might consider safer. The kind of games that I gravitate towards, like The Last of story, like narrative driven games like The Last of Us or Red Dead Redemption. I love those kinds of experiences, even if mechanically speaking, they're not always the most original. Even if not the most original, they can still be really refined and really fun. So that would probably, mechanically speaking, that would be my focus, is like make a game that I would play, that I would want to play, but like do my damnedest to make sure that the actual mechanics are fun and sound.
Yeah, I would stick to the safer route for at least the first several games. But I would the pitch for my studio would be us doing that, but for licenses and products that have either never been adapted in this version or in this formula before, or have never been adapted at all.
He wants to make a Godzilla game.
No,
I think
that
he
is not
wants
what
to
I
make a
want.
Schindler's List game.
No!
Wow.
Way to bring that
Holy
back up to the
shit.
surface.
You're gonna get an expose written about us.
Fuck me. Oh god, no.
Just
Wow.
It's Schindler's List, but we're doing cats.
I mean, for fuck's sake, you play as Schindler, right?
I would hope.
oh my god, this is off the rails.
You are going
No,
on to
I
this.
would kind of go the safer route, and I would make a sequel to I am bread, but it would be I sweat mayonnaise.
Is
And that would be the game.
is
That's the game, is-
intellectual property theft the safe way?
I would make a studio that does nothing but adapt Osama bin Affleck's questions into video game content.
That is the worst idea.
They'd be tiny indie games. Can't wait till y'all
Yeah.
hear today's or to the question he asked this week. Oh my god!
So I feel like the assumption of like if you have the money to open your own game studio, to me that sounds like I have the money to lose, you know? So if that's the case, if like my financial well-being is kind of divorced from this venture, then I say go for it. Like I say I want to make weird avant-garde shit that like 4 people obsess over for the rest of their lives, you know?
Like oh fuck, what was that? My memory's horrible. What was the fucking game we saw at PAX that one year? That was just the TV monitor.
Oh,
Camdrome?
fucking Camdrome? Yeah.
Camdrome, yeah.
I would be working
like
They
that
would
shit.
revive Camdrome.
like I would almost want to like make a studio that's like not just video games but is also like really
It's nothing.
highly
It's nothing at the same time.
Yeah, highly experimental like chaotic fiction kind of thing that makes no money and shuts down in like 2 years because I've just been paying everybody out of my pocket. That's what I would do.
I would make Nobi Boy.
Which is why nobody gives me money.
Fair enough.
All right, let's move on. Next question this week from Judd, aka Scud. What is your ultimate gaming related Schadenfreude? Pleasure derived from someone else's intense misfortune is Schadenfreude. For me, it's watching fan bases blow up over huge releases like The Last of Us 2 or Cyberpunk 2077.
I will say this: I am the exact opposite of that. I do not like to watch people lose their mind over games. It is a point of contention and stress for me. It's inspired me to write an essay. That's like that shit is stressing me out.
I think you just spoiled half your essay right there.
No, what I'm writing is not at all about the actual discourse. Well, kind of is, I guess. But anyways, I don't know. Do I have it? I don't take pleasure in other people's misfortune. I feel like that just kind of makes you an asshole, doesn't it? Sorry, Scud, if that says anything.
Oh, you want one? I got one for you. NCAA. When the whole like lawsuit came down about NCAA using players' likenesses to make boatloads of money, and you know the players didn't see any of that, and they like stopped using their name and shit like that. To see that lawsuit win, or at least gain enough traction to like shut that whole thing down, was real like fuck yeah, like fuck you EA and the NCAA. Like it's yeah, I don't know why we're still talking about whether or not collegiate athletes deserve to be compensated for what they do, but like it's insane to me that people are like, no, they should get absolutely nothing. Like,
You know what? I take that back. I think I do have a, how do you pronounce it? Schadenfreude?
Schadenfreude?
So
Schadenfreude.
I think I've this is only developed in the last 4 years of my life. For instance, last week I took great pleasure in, I don't want to get political. You know, the crowd at watching Donald Trump get off the airplane after his monumental rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and just seeing his just body language and how terribly,
Nick, that was the worst day of his life,
and that was the best of mine. It was so good, so
It has
good.
nothing to do with video games, but
Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
This is, I mean, that's the only answer I could probably give, because I think that's the only example in my life where I've felt like I am taking great pleasure in watching someone suffer.
yeah.
That's it. And I think that can be expanded out to just like anytime watching a bigot of any kind get just fucking just destroyed. You know what I mean? Like, it's the best. It's the best. It's like Nolan watching cringe videos, but like I'm watching videos of people just get torn apart by the better half of society. Sorry.
All right,
Sorry.
let's move on to the next question this week from Negative Cosine.
Oh, nice.
What is worse, getting that lump in your throat after swallowing a chunk of food you didn't chew enough, or the toilet paper ripping when you wipe and getting poop on your hand? Well, let me just bring up for those of you who are Venture Brothers fans, that comment is one of my favorite. Like, there's a bit in that show in a single episode that is one of my favorite scenes in that entire series.
Dab.
And that's when the alchemist is talking about like
Oh, oh no, the cotton balls.
yeah.
Like, I can't tell you why, but I meant to smell it.
No, like the whole thing is like because they're trying to bring up like dark memories. They need to bring out
they're
darkness.
in hell, and
he's
they
like,
need to like relive.
Yeah, he's like, there's this one time. Okay, so I didn't have any toilet paper, and so I had some cotton balls, and I was wiping with a cotton ball, and then my finger poked through. And don't ask me why, I don't know, but I went to smell my finger, and some of the cotton got stuck in my beard stubble, and like. Just the scene, it's fucking hilarious.
And
just
they're
him
all like,
telling it. All right. Anyway.
Oh no.
Which
I
one's
love
worse?
That, I also love that story follows another character's like really deep, tragic story about his mother being murdered in front of him when he's a child.
All right. So lump of food in your throat versus poop on your hand.
Well, I think one of these.
So
happens
I guess it
a lot
depends.
more
Like,
often
is
than
it
the
just
other.
like the poop? If it's just like, is it? Am I choking on it, or is it just like kind of that awkward thing, and you just need a quick drink and it's done?
Is this a lump? Am I suffocating?
Yeah, because like I can wash
yeah.
poop off my hand, but sometimes if you're dying, that's a different scenario.
Very
Yeah,
much.
no.
I can actually, I have one vivid memory. Oh, what was that restaurant? Not Macaroni Grill. I don't know. There was this one place that it was in Houston. I don't even know if it was a chain or a standalone place, but my mom and myself and my sister would go there sometimes. And there's one time my mom finally let me get the mozzarella sticks. It's like we definitely did not grow up super wealthy, so never really got appetizers when we went places. But for some reason, my mom let me get some mozzarella sticks, and I was so excited. And they came out, and I was excited, so I started eating on it. But they were like, I guess, fresh, and so the mozzarella was really like stringy and pulley. And I took a bite, and I thought I had bitten it off completely, and so I swallowed, but the string of cheese was still attached. And I was like trying to bite the string to get it to like detach, but I couldn't. So I had to like pull the mozzarella bite up out of my throat using the strand. So is that what we're talking about?
You're like flossing, you know.
So you're just sitting
But
there
no,
going, like,
basically, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because I'm worried about either I have to wash my hands or I'm in danger of fucking dying. So I think I'm gonna go with the throat thing.
I once ate a chip, like a tortilla chip, and like a little tiny like
Sliver.
sliver got stuck in like right behind my like Adam's apple in my throat, and no matter how much I drank, I couldn't get it to go away, and it
just
stayed there
still
for like
feels like it's there
for like 2 hours. It felt like it was there, and
That's
that was
the worst.
the worst.
I would definitely go with the food thing, just because honestly, like poop on my hand, I don't enjoy that. But you can just wash your hand.
Yeah,
And I mean, I hope you wash your hands anyway.
yeah, but when something's going on in the throat, it's like startling. It's
you're like, is this how I die?
Have you never ended up with poop on your hand and been startled?
Where did that come from?
I'm always aware of all the poop.
All right,
Shitty
let's move on.
situation.
Next question from Osama bin Affleck.
Here it is, guys. The next video game from Osama bin Affleck.
Would you rather have everything you drink be littered with eyelashes, or have everything you eat be littered with toenail clippings?
Oh, dude, I feel like the eyelashes for sure.
Eyelashes,
right?
Am I missing something? Is that just? I've never accidentally drank something with an eyelash in it. Is it awful?
I'm sure you have. No, it probably isn't. I think it's more so like a visual thing. Like you would like define littered. What's the ratio of liquid to eyelash?
I think
Yeah.
that's
50-50. Because if so, then that's not cool.
Like if we're talking like hundreds of eyelashes, so the entire time you're drinking, you just feel like the texture of like something floating in the drink. That
I
could
think
be
that's
awful.
what he's going for.
That could be awful. But at the same time, you would be crunching onto toenails when you're trying to eat your food, and that sounds infinitely worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should see.
Have you ever bitten into something that shouldn't be crunchy, and you find something crunchy?
Yeah,
It pretty much makes me want to.
startling.
It makes me want to stop eating completely, just
You
for
no
good.
You no longer trust.
Yeah, I just
Yep.
I fail to trust. Osama bin Affleck
Yeah.
says 50% eyelashes.
Jesus
50%?
Christ. That's
50
not like a drink anymore. At that
What?
point, it's
No.
like a smoothie.
Yeah, that is like way beyond saturated.
That's a slurry of hate
That's
there.
not littered. That's you're drinking a glass of wet eyelashes.
That's what. Wait,
And
does that mean
that sounds terrible.
wait? So does that mean the ratio of toenail clippings to food is
I
50%
don't-
as well?
okay,
Oh,
You guys
God.
are playing into his hand, and we've entertained
we all
this
say
enough.
we all say eyelashes. That's what we're going with.
I'm starting to
alright.
think maybe we made a bad decision.
We're giving into this terrorist by answering his questions. Stop it.
Ask
You're
Ask
giving
us
The
another
terrorists
question
are
next-
winning.
Next question from Fuzzy Turd from the Woodlands. You're on a new Japanese game show.
Uh-oh.
Basically, for every pound of shit you produce in a toilet, you'll receive $1 million.
What are we doing?
What do you
What is
eat
this?
beforehand? No laxatives. Similar note, the toilet you shit in is an enclosed glass box with no ventilation, suspended 30 feet in the air at a stadium with a live audience. So if you're a shy pooper, I suggest some alcohol to loosen you up.
We can have
Man.
alcohol, but no laxatives.
I think he meant
Oh.
loosen up your morals, kind of like you're a little, like when you're tipsy, you're more likely to poop in front of millions of people.
Your
Oh
morals.
God.
Is it your morals keeping you from
We're-
Yeah, I don't
So
think
there's
any
going
amount
to be
of
a lot of fiber involved.
I don't think,
I think,
any amount of
uh,
alcohol
most-
is going to do that.
Mostly
for me.
PF Chang's.
What's wrong
what
with
does Randy
PF
say?
Chang's?
No, that's from
It's
South
from
Park when
South
Randy shits the big old shit. It's because he
Oh,
eats a lot of
the
PF
Bono
Chang's
shit?
or-
Is it the
Yeah.
Bono shit? Oh man.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Wow.
there's
I am curious sometimes. Is sometimes I'll have like a pretty big shit, and I'm like, I wonder how much that weighs. I don't ever
Wait, what
fucking
about,
weigh
like-
it.
What about like a bunch of barbecue and then a bunch of like fibrous greens?
I mean, yeah, I
That'd
think
be a
that
good
would.
start.
a good
Yeah.
start. Like, Bernadette's in chat, and she says kimchi.
Kimchi?
Also bearing
Uh.
in mind that if I ever did find myself in this situation, I'll kill myself, and I don't know how I'll do it. I'll hang myself with a fucking belt in the green room before this happens. I'm not participating in this madness. I like just to spite you. I will kill myself.
Oh my god.
So when you die, it releases your bodily functions, though, right?
Oh, but
Oh,
you'd be
they're
dead.
gonna-
does that
oh, they're
mean
gonna
we
be-
can have
does
your
that
money?
count? They're gonna be checking my corpse for like all the shit coming out of me.
Does my
Yes.
family get the money at that point then?
Yeah.
Oh
Be
my
considerate
god.
of us, Chris. Jesus Christ.
Oh, Bernadette
Wait,
is saying
also,
kimchi. Kimchi is
That's
what
what. Yeah,
Randy ate
Randy
in
ate
South Park.
PF Chang's and kimchi.
I'm
Gotcha.
not entirely clear. Are there other people shitting and you're trying to like out shit them?
Is this a competition? Yeah, like outshit
Yeah,
your
what-
shitter
what-
friends.
Is the money just guaranteed if you go out and shit?
Yeah,
For
I think
every-
so.
Yeah.
For every pound of shit.
But it
I
has
get
to
a
be a
million.
pound. You have to make sure you produce at least a
okay,
pound.
okay.
There is no bar. The bar is so low on the questions we will answer on this fucking
How
show.
much money is each pound worth?
$1
$1
million.
million.
$1 million.
A million.
I really only need
A
to get a pound to be
million,
happy.
okay. Do you know what the taxes on that's gonna be?
A shitload.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
All right, I think we've answered that one enough. Let's get one more question in this week
Even dull.
from the Drunken Merchant.
It's gotta be. It's you gotta go. You gotta hope and pray. It's one of those shits where you look at it and you're immediately like, I gotta tell someone about this. That's the one that's gonna make you rich.
Have you had
Mhm.
shits like that? Where you're
Have
like,
has
I
has
wanna-
everyone? Hasn't
never, like,
everyone?
You haven't like looked at a shit and been like, "This is a horrible sin I've committed, and I must bury it before anyone finds out
What?
that this came out of me."
This is a test of love in a marriage. When you take your shit
no.
and then you call for your spouse saying,
Come look
"Honey,
at
come
this."
look at this."
That's probably not a good idea one way or the other. Next question.
All right, the Drunken Merchant asks, what do you guys think would make some good modern day Nintendo World Championship challenges? Each challenge can last around 2 minutes and would come from any game from this gen or last gen from any major game company, Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony. An example would be in Days Gone, how many freakers can you kill during this endless horde within 2 minutes? That score would be added to your total, then you'd move on to the next challenge. For those who don't remember, the Nintendo World Championship was a thing in the early 90s, I think, or late 80s, where people would go up on stage and like, oh, play through like Mario to get the highest score and shit like that, and like, oh, play a bunch of Tetris and whatever.
They don't have to be Nintendo games specifically.
No.
Well, I think that if you wanted to have a starter elimination round, Tetris 99, I think that'd be pretty good.
See, I'm not very keen on like competitive games in general. So I feel
it doesn't have to be a competitive game. That's the thing. Like, it can be anything. That's why his example was like, oh, Days Gone.
He gave a good answer with Days Gone. If he took it from me, I can't use it now.
Oh, okay, sure.
That's how it works.
But also,
once again, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be anything competitive. It just has to be something quantifiable.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Something that you can do that you can compare to someone else.
If it were Nintendo, I mean, Mario Maker is built for this.
I feel like Doom probably has some good quantifiable modes in there, right?
Oh, what about like show two competitors a picture of something in Minecraft and they have 10 minutes to recreate it?
That's cool.
That's really good, Crispy.
I like that idea. Also, I'm thinking about like I'm trying to I don't know. I'm not sure what the best example would be, but like maybe some kind of survival horror where it's about see who can survive the long, like maybe like Alien Isolation, where it's like who can survive the longest avoiding the alien while trying to accomplish this and this or something.
I mean, the thing I will say to that is that if you're going to choose a game that's going to be a competition between multiple people, you wouldn't have all the exact same settings. And I think the alien is just too wild an AI to actually control and manipulate to where everybody gets the same experience. Some people could
get like, good RNG and they get like a really good run or something like that. Yeah, that could be difficult. I was going to say something like a Bayonetta or something like that, create like the best highest combo or something. Do something like, you have 2 minutes to get like a really high combo or something, like juggling an enemy. Yeah, something like that I think is something easily quantifiable.
For sure. Rocket League might be fun, right? Might be
if there were teams, I think that's a one-on-one.
Oh, gotcha. It's got to be.
That one's tough, yeah. I don't know. I think we get a couple of good examples. That's tough, though. I mean, I think we'd need to sit down for longer to kind of try and think about.
Oh, it might take a while, but have a marker or a specific goal somewhere deep in Subnautica, and it's just like a race to see who can build up enough resources to build whatever they need to get that low to get to it.
That would be
That's
cool.
a good one.
Like put it in the deepest like level of the ocean and be like whoever gets to it first.
Like down in those like lava biomes or whatever.
Yeah. I like that idea.
All right, let's do one more question because it's a real quick one.
Okay.
From Ash from the Burdekinshire.
The Burdekinshire, of course.
Obviously.
Yeah. How do you like your eggs?
Sunny side up.
Scrambled. Only.
Not there.
Not there?
What? I'm not an egg guy.
Not an egg guy.
Sounds like you haven't had good eggs.
I mean, that's a possibility.
So it depends on the scenario. Like if I'm doing like just like a regular kind of breakfast, I think I'd lean maybe more towards scrambled. But if I was doing like steak and eggs, I'd want a sunny side up. Me and Bernadette, for the first time in my life recently, throughout my entire life, every time I've had like packaged ramen, I always take the ramen and put it in the hot water and then put the seasoning in it and eat it. But the past, not too recent past, I've started doing more things like adding some baby bok choy, and adding some we have this what is it, aji what is it called? It's like the seaweed stuff. I always forget what it's called.
Yeah.
Adding some of that
Kombu?
in. What?
Kombu or something.
It's something like that.
No.
Yeah, it has nori in it. Aji nori
Furikake?
furikake. Thank you, Chris Davis. Yes,
Yeah.
I know that. Yes, aji nori furikake. And we got that because we started making spam masubi, and that's one thing you can add to spam masubi. But anyway, I was like, let me throw some of that in the ramen, and then I was like, maybe I'll make a soft boiled egg. And I really like soft boiled eggs. And then actually, literally the other day, for the first time, I just made like a soy sauce like soft boiled egg.
Nice.
I really like soft boiled eggs.
You're right. Now that you mentioned egg in ramen is probably my favorite way to eat an egg, just in general. Also, shout out baby bok choy and ramen, so good.
Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
let me verify. As long as I'm just not eating eggs straight, like I'm fine with eggs being part of things, like in an omelet or stuff like that. As long as it's not like the main
omelet,
thing.
I'd like
omelet is
90%
literally just
eggs.
I don't want to eat like scrambled eggs or just like eggs over easy. Just not a straight egg, but if the egg is part of something, if it's in a breakfast
but
taco, yeah, I'm good.
If the egg wraps around other things, then I'll eat.
Oh yeah, I
Like,
mean, if
yeah.
you dig through the egg to get to the good stuff. I used to do that when I was a kid, like eat omelets like that.
Reborn brings up a good point. Like, what about like eggs and fried rice, Chris Davis? Is that
Sure.
fine with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's always like so small and cut up. I mean, I like scrambled eggs and basically just scrambled eggs. I think I do not like runny oaks at all. Like I just can't.
Well, so what about like an over medium or an over hard,
Yeah,
crispy?
I'll
Would that
do
be okay?
No,
Well, it's not runny
not
then.
really. I know, but I don't like. I also don't like. I just, I don't like it. I barely like scrambled eggs, and that is like the most basic preparation because it's just like this ubiquitous substance that you can like put pepper and hot sauce on and whatever. It's
So-
fine. But yeah, like although I would try like those like really custardy eggs, like
Dude, that's the
Gordon
only way I
Ramsay
make
makes.
scrambled eggs now. Is like the
So-
more custardy you
like
add some butter,
buttery.
you constantly kind of mix it. Dude, it's that's my favorite way.
So Robin watches, a lot of cooking shows or whatever. Obviously, a lot of them have Gordon Ramsay involved. And there was one, I forgot which show it was, but someone asked Gordon Ramsay like, how do you make your eggs? And he was like, oh, it's easy. There is a right way to make eggs, it's like scrambled eggs, and I'm going to show you right now. And it was like the simplest fucking thing in the world. I don't even remember what the exact. It had something to do with. It was just like butter and a certain amount of salt and pepper and like one other ingredient. I don't remember what it was, but it's so fucking simple. And
I think it
Robin
was
started-
creme fraiche.
No, I think it was. I mean, it's something that most everybody has on hand.
Dude,
it may have just been milk.
Dangle in chat just said creme fraiche too. Like I'm pretty sure it was creme fraiche.
Yeah, if you're
We don't have that on hand.
if you're
But like
You can
the
make creme
moment,
fraiche.
like Robin
You don't
saw
have
this
creme
and she's
fraiche
like,
on hand?
I don't think
Dude,
so. I mean,
come on.
maybe Robin does, and I just don't know. But she went in there and she's like, I'm gonna try this, and she made the eggs. Fucking best eggs I've ever had in my life, and we've been like making them like that.
I
ever
think in
since.
reality, and I think even how I was brought up, most people overcook scrambled eggs. And when you don't overcook them and they're more creamy and like it tastes so much better.
so good.
But it was funny actually a couple of weeks ago.
What is
we
creme
decided-
fraiche? What am I missing here?
it's like cream that's been inoculated. It's like cream that's starting to get kind of like
It's
from bacteria.
Yeah.
well, no, it's think of it like what's the word I'm looking for? Fermented almost.
People in chat
Hey,
are
where
yelling at
it's-
me like I'm
bacteria.
crazy. I've never heard
Yes.
of this.
That's fine, Nick. It's fine. But it
Interesting.
was a couple of weeks ago. We decided to make hamburgers, and we're making hamburgers or whatever. And then I asked Berna, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to make an egg to go on my burger. Do you want one?" She was like, "No, I'm good." And so I fry up. I think I did an over medium maybe egg, and like as I'm frying it up, she looked at. She's like, "That looks really good," and she was like, "Maybe I do want an egg." And I was
Hell
like, "Yeah,
yeah.
when you make them good, eggs are good." especially on a
delicious.
burger. Yeah. All right. Anyway, I think that's we spent a lot more time on it. I thought we were going
That was a
to.
great quick question, Nolan.
So thanks again, everyone who submitted their questions. If we didn't get to it, we'll get to it eventually.
Absolutely. So thank you guys so much for your questions. If you want to ask a question on our future show, really all you need to do is be a supporter on Patreon at any tier or just be a subscriber on Twitch. Either way, you'll have access to the form that Nolan mentioned. It's pinned at the top of the supporters channel in Discord. I also am in the habit of updating the pinned post on Patreon to let everybody know that they can submit questions every week. But yeah, if you want to find the form, go to Discord, go to Patreon. It'll be on both those places. But for now, before we wrap up the show, I want to do a supporter spotlight. This week, our supporter spotlight is Laurik. I don't know how to say his name. Laorik.
I would say Laurik.
Laurik
Lorik?
from Durham, North Carolina. I guess.
Poor Rick, I knew him well. I'm sorry.
Let's see. I'm just going to read a few of his answers. But supporter spotlight. If you're a supporter on Twitch or Patreon, we invite you to fill out. It's another form. It's just some simple questions about yourself, about your general taste in games, and you can answer however you want. And I'll pick one at random every week and read your responses. So I like to start out with their top 5 games of all time. It says a lot about your taste in games, obviously. So this is a colorful list. Number 5, I've never heard of this game. Terra Battle? Is anyone here familiar with Terra Battle?
That's from Mistwalker, the guys that made Lost Odyssey.
He does say Sakaguchi. So Sakaguchi's attempt to break into the mobile space introduced an amazing story and characters with surprisingly complex skill-based puzzle mechanics in a mobile game space plagued by auto-battling RPGs. Then they handed the sequel off to a different company who hemorrhaged money from the franchise and killed it with predatory microtransactions and gacha mechanics.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the game servers were shut down in June 2020, and the only remaining available look into the amazing world is a poorly implemented collaboration side quest in Final Fantasy 15. That's weird. What a just balls to the wall crazy choice there. Terra Battle.
There's also Terra Wars, which was a...
Is that the sequel he was referring to?
No, there was Terra Battle 2, and then there was Terra Wars. From my understanding, Terra Wars was going to launch on mobile, but eventually go to consoles.
But neither of those ever happened.
Nope.
All right. Number 4, Etrian Odyssey 3.
Okay.
Something about the allure of hand-drawn maps of a labyrinth, the allure of hand-drawing maps of a labyrinth as you explore every square inch really appeals to me. 3 was the first game to introduce classes that didn't fit in the norm of combat, so I enjoyed this one the best. One of the classes he mentioned is like farmer. This is a farmer class. I don't like as a class you can play as in a battle system in an RPG. That's interesting.
I feel like the rewards you would reap would take a long ass time to fucking grow.
Yeah. I have no history with the Etrian Odyssey series. I'm sure this is probably on that long list that who is it? Is it Fuzzy? Who's the one that's playing through all the damn RPGs, like every RPG ever made?
Blobbly?
Blobbly.
Blobbly.
Yeah. I wonder if Blobbly has played Etrian Odyssey 3 yet. But that is an interesting choice. Nolan, this next one's for you. Number 3, Binding of Isaac. The synergies
Afterbirth.
It just says Binding of Isaac.
I know.
The synergies that can come from items combining together keeps the game fresh every run you play. Just insane replay value. Keeping it simple. But yeah.
It's one of those things where similar to like any kind of like roguelike or roguelite. When you like Monster Train or something like that, the recent ones where you just you will have so many runs where you just get shit items. And like it's horrible, but then you'll have those 1 or 2 runs where like everything just like works well, and like you said, the synergies, the way the items can like just like synergize with each other and works like, oh, it's so satisfying when you get a good run.
The thing of beauty. Also, Blobbly is in chat, and Blobbly says Etrian Odyssey 3 is great, or he says good. I don't know. Yeah, he says good. Maybe it's not great. Sorry, I got a little.
But there's an exclamation mark there.
There is an exclamation point, which
There's
means you
also
can
a
probably
slash.
make it a great with a period. Great with a period is the same thing as good with an exclamation point. Am I right?
Yeah.
It's the same. It's like the same thing. Crispy, this next one's for you. Final Fantasy 14. I've been active in this game since the alpha test of the original.
But the original one and not Realm Reborn.
Well, here we go. Just give it a second. He says, I've been active in this game since the alpha test of the original scrapped version of this game. I've met many people and seen the game evolve into a truly great title under the franchise. And although a minority of people actually experience it, I'm constantly impressed with the developer's ability to create new, interesting, and sometimes insane mechanics for in-game content fights.
That's cool. You know, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Like, I'm trying to get through Last of Us as fast as possible, just because I feel bad about not I feel bad playing Final Fantasy when I've got Last of Us sitting over here. So I'm just trying to power
As
through
you
it
should.
so that I
As
can go
you
back
should.
to Final Fantasy.
You know what? I'll tell you this, Crispy. If you really care about The Last of Us, I did it in 4 days.
I think I could bust it out this weekend.
I felt like a slob when I did it, but it's doable. And his number one game of all time is Monster Hunter XX, or in the West, it's called GU. Although Monster Hunter World has done a great job of broadening their audience for Monster Hunter, this game is a culmination of years of polish and content. The addition of styles let every weapon have essentially 6 different movesets, taking weapon variety to a whole new level. I've put close to 1,000 hours into XX and enjoyed every minute of it. XX's Western release released after World, so we figured Capcom abandoned any hope of localizing it when World was announced. Wait, what? I'm trying to... XX's Western released after World, so we figured...
it was ported over as GU after
because there wasn't a Switch port of World at the time.
Gotcha.
And they wanted to capitalize on the market, so...
Right. So once World came out and was a huge hit, then they put out this for the Switch.
Cool. Let's see. And so the last question I will read from him tonight is... So I added a new question, by the way, to the forum, and I'm going to be adding a few others in the coming weeks, or I'll probably just do it tomorrow. I just need to remember to do it. I talked to people in Discord a while ago, just getting suggestions for ideas for questions we could add to this forum that people would have fun answering. And this one is just kind of a generic one that I added, but just to make a recommendation. It could be anything, whether it's a game, a movie, music, whatever. If there's something that you're really into right now and you want to just get other people exposed to it, I ask people to recommend something. So he says... Although it's hard to find a subtitled version at this point, if you have any love for the Phoenix Wright series, the live-action movie is definitely something to check out. I didn't even know there was a live-action Phoenix Wright movie.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
And there was Miles Edgeworth and all the characters in it.
He says, hands down, the best video game movie adaptation of all time.
Okay.
What do you... Nolan seems to disagree. What do you think the best video game adaptation is, Nolan?
I didn't say pass.
Mortal Kombat. Sorry, no, I'm just kidding.
There is some delightful things about that film, Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat?
Yes.
Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, but I also think if you go back and watch it again, you realize maybe not as good as you remember it.
I mean,
especially the second one. Holy shit, that is a...
I mean, we don't talk about Annihilation.
No one ever thought the second one was good, though.
I know, but like, I didn't remember how bad it was until I saw it on TV or something like a couple of years ago, and I was like, Jesus, this is way worse than child me remembers it being. Oh my god!
My parents thought it would be a good idea to surprise me by taking me to that movie as an 11-year-old, like a theater full of people, like, and all of a sudden there's a mud wrestling scene, and you're like,
oh, it's awkward. All right.
Yeah.
Lauric, thank you very much for submitting. We really appreciate it. Thank you also for being a supporter. We appreciate every one of our supporters. If you're interested in supporting us and being able to submit questions or become a supporter spotlight on our future show, of course, patreon.com/4player, or you can subscribe to us on Twitch at twitch.tv/4player podcast. But now let's wrap up the show with the 4-player minute. I usually start with Brad. He's not here, so I'm just going to start with Crispy. He's in the top left on my screen. So
my hype this week is for Cyberpunk 2077.
I need to watch that footage.
Yeah, that shit looked cool, and I was also listening. I don't remember if I read it or listened to it. Like an IGN impression from like a hands-on demo that they played, and it seemed really positive, as it would. They did mention some things that I was like, yep, that doesn't surprise me at all. And one of them was that like the driving didn't feel very good. Um, I I am not really expecting much out of this game as far as like feel or mechanics are concerned. I don't think if
Are
it
you?
came out if it came out and like the shooting was like really lackluster or whatever, I wouldn't be surprised. And I don't expect that to be a huge hindrance of my enjoyment of it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's okay for all of us to just like make peace with the fact that like it's probably gonna have a bit of jank and clunk to it. But it's still probably gonna be a great game, you know? I mean, Witcher 3 is the same way.
Absolutely.
So I'm super excited about that. Plus, you know, dong slider. You can choose whether or not you're circumcised.
Oh
Pubic
shit.
hair. Yeah.
That's new.
Right?
There are 5
Crazy.
different models of pubic hairs in the game.
Wait, so are we saying there's like different? There's like at least 3. There's 3 different sliders associated just with your junk.
Well, it's not a slider. One, like a couple of them are just like selection. Yeah, basically they put out the totals of every like appearance option, and it's
How
stuff
often are you
like,
gonna see your dick in this game?
I don't know, as often
I
as
mean,
you
it's-
want. I think if you take your clothes off in your inventory, you're like, oh look, it's my dick.
Well, hold on. How
What's
many
going to be the
dicks can I
funniest thing
have?
about this is going to be just when the modding community gets a hold of this.
Like, can you buy a synthetic dick to attach next to your
Yeah.
regular dick?
Yeah, that's
How
what I
many
want to know.
dicks can you have?
Okay, so there's
By
like
the way,
there's two penis options and only one vagina option. It's 2020, guys. Come on.
Jesus
Mm.
Christ, guys, I killed a clicker in The Last of Us, and they have penises. I don't know if you've seen this.
And it had a penis.
It has
Wait,
like
really?
it. Yeah, the
What?
clicker has like it's kind of fungusy,
I mean, they're covered in mushrooms, Nick.
It has a
But-
little wiener.
but there is very clearly a cock and balls on some of the clickers. 100% guarantee. I think I
More like
screenshot-
clackers.
I think I saved a screenshot. If I did, I will tweet it later.
I need to see that.
I'll ping everybody in this group. And I'll share it with everybody. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting little detail. see what I did there?
Yeah.
Do you really
Alright,
want
so-
that to be in your search history? Clicker junk?
I don't know. I think I saved the screenshot on my game. I took a screenshot.
Come on, guys. It's clicker dick.
Clicker
Right.
dicker.
Clicker dicker.
Clicker
Clicker
junk.
dicker. Clicker dicker upper. Okay, so that was hype. Right? Did I
Yes.
say that?
Yes.
Okay.
4-player
minute.
10.
I guess my sweat is just that like if an outlet like IGN, which is obviously going to try to paint a pretty rosy picture of something like this, is already saying like, oh well, this doesn't feel good, but you know they've got all this time to fix it until the game comes out. It does make me wonder how, like, if even they're calling it out, like how clunky it must feel, you know?
Right,
what I
right.
mean? I don't know. So I am optimistic that any sort of mechanical clunk will just kind of be taken as part of the experience and not really hinder the whole thing. But at the same time, you know, who knows, right? It could be broken. My fuck you for the week goes. I'm gonna echo Brad's sentiment and say Chris Avellone, but also there's been a few other people in other creative spaces that have been getting me too'd recently. And
Mhm.
one that was really disappointing for me was Cameron Stewart, who's a comic book writer. He was part of the creative team that brought back Batgirl during New 52 and did like the whole Batgirl Burnside thing. And I loved that book, and I was really excited about like him and Babs Tarr and Becky Cloonan and like everybody who worked on that. And I was like following all of their work. And turns out he's just like a big fucking sex pest creeper, and it's like super fucking disappointing.
Yep.
It's just
It's not that hard, guys. It's not that hard.
yeah,
to be,
it's like so
to be
easy
decent.
it's so easy to not be a fucking creep at conventions, you know? It's super easy. And my thank you for this week. I'm gonna give it to Haste, because Haste off I got a drawing commissioned of one of my D&D characters from an old campaign, and I just got it today, and I love it. And Haste offered to it was a black and white drawing, and Haste offered to color it for me.
Oh, cool.
So can't wait to see that, and fucking awesome. And I don't know if you guys have seen, but Haste's pretty good. Haste's pretty good
I don't
artist.
think I don't think I've ever seen his art, but that's cool.
Pretty good. You know, I don't know if he's I don't know if he's a Nellifi, but I'm just joking. But yeah, he's good. And that's it.
Cool. Thank you, Nolan.
Mm-hmm.
Your turn.
Alrighty, my 4-player minute starts now. I got a sweat and 3 fucks. My sweat is going to go to the itch bundle for racial inequality. I started looking through that, and holy fuck, there's 1,770 games, and I don't know what to do.
You don't realize how
know-
many that is until you've looked at it, really.
Until you get to page 12 out of 59, and you've already spent like over an hour looking at them. I don't know which ones to play. I don't know which ones are worth my time. A bunch of them look really good. So I don't know how to approach that.
You had kind of a fun idea. I don't know if you want to say that out loud on the show, but I thought it was kind of
yeah.
a neat
No,
idea.
I can bring it up. The idea I pitched to the staff was, what if we had a lot of our community members probably also got this bundle just because it was a good deal, went to a really good cause. And I'm hoping that maybe the community does seem to oftentimes be more in touch with indie games. And maybe they can help us put together a list of like the top, I don't know, 30, 40 games, which seems like a lot. But out of 1,770, 30 to 40 is not that many. But kind of maybe get us the top 40. The community can submit all their suggestions. And then each of us on the 4-player crew can pick, I don't know, 4, 5, 10 of them, whatever we want to say, play through those, pick our best ones, and then have like maybe do a video or a podcast kind of shouting out some of the best ones from that bundle. That was kind of the idea I had.
I think that'd be fun.
I think that'd be really cool.
All right, moving on. My fuck this week is gonna go to the people who are being shitty about The Last of Us for dumb reasons. I am 100%. I support your decision to not like the game, but if you don't like the game for the really dumb reasons I've been seeing some people complain about, that's kind of frustrating. And I can't really get into some of them because they're very spoilery. But
I mean,
there's some.
When you think about it, the game had 13,000 negative reviews the day before it launched on Metacritic, and that's asinine. It's completely asinine. They reset the user score, by the way. Good on
As they
Metacritic.
should,
That was bullshit. Like, if people want to play it and then give it a bad score, that's one thing. 13,000 reviews. Why you can even submit a score before something is actually out seems ridiculous.
All right, my second fuck you is gonna go to excuse me, the people of Texas / Greg Abbott. We had 5,900 new COVID cases yesterday.
We're number one, baby.
Number one in the U.S. Things are fucking moving on up. We're coming after you, California, and your total cases. It's pretty ridiculous. People are being super dumb.
Florida's
yeah.
I'm surprised Florida's not number one, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
And whew.
But it's just frustrating where our governor is like, well, you should wear a mask. It's like, well, make it a mandate. No, I'm not going to say it's a mandate. Just you should maybe do that. Super fucking frustrating. Anyway, moving on. My final fuck you this week goes to myself. I had mentioned earlier, Bernadette and I had recently come across a bunch of spam, mainly because her parents went to Costco and they bought us a bunch of spam. And so I wanted to make spam musubi to relive our time in Hawaii. And so I ventured out for the first time in a very long time, and I went to an Asian market here in Austin called MT. And I was kind of, I don't want to say in a hurry, but obviously I wanted to limit the amount of time I was there. And so I wanted to get some short grain rice because I know short grain rice is kind of better for making the sticky rice that works well with sushi. But I accidentally got short grain glutinous sweet rice. So it's more of something you would use for like mochi or like a sweet dessert kind of thing.
Yeah, that's not the
So
same.
it's
Yeah.
not. It tasted fine, but the masubi didn't exactly hold its shape. It kind of started to droop a little bit. So we just had to make the nori a little bit wider to encompass it all. It tasted good, but now I have 9.8 pounds of sticky glutinous rice.
Hearing you say that and then reading it in chat, I feel like the word glutinous rice is like the word moist to me, or like some. That is not a pleasant combination of words. Sorry, continue.
No, that's it. So yeah, maybe we will try and do something more like a make a rice pudding or like a mochi ice cream type thing. Maybe we'll try doing something like that. But yeah, we'll see. That's
Sweet.
it.
Chris Davis.
Okay. My first type this week is for, like Chris and Brad were talking about, Cyberpunk 2077. I actually did watch the presentation today. They showed off a bunch of fucking cool shit, including like a surrounding district called the Badlands, which they're basically pitching as like almost Mad Max-esque, with like fucking convoys and shit that you can go, do all sorts of quests and stuff for.
That if the driving in the game is good, I'm excited.
Like, yeah, if the driving is good, yeah. And the way they're pitching that car, it better be. They also talked about like brain dancing, which is like take the investigative mode from the Arkham games and then put that in the context of Cyberpunk, to where V can relive the full memory of an event from a character's perspective, and then go back and analyze it to learn stuff. Like he relived a gas station robbery, and discovered what happened to the guy as he was leaving, as he got shot.
How long was this presentation?
It was like half an hour, man.
I might watch
It
that
was-
tonight before
it
while
was
I'm
meaty.
in bed.
Yeah, and this is like the first in a series of presentations they're going to be doing up till launch. So
Launching, which by the way, I don't think we mentioned this, is now November.
yeah, we mentioned it last week, November
Yeah, oh, okay.
19th, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also said that anybody that buys it on PS4 will get the PS5 version. So
Sweet.
same as the Xbox. So that's pretty good.
Wait, if you buy it on Xbox, you get the PS5 version?
Yeah.
You get the
Hell
the
yeah.
Series X version or whatever it's going to be called, Lockhart as well. My second hype this week is for Hitman 3. I have not watched the presentation, but I've been reading up some details about it, and it sounds like a lot of fun. It's going to be just like Hitman 2, and that it's a 6-episode thing that's going to conclude the story of this trilogy that they've been doing for the past several years. Like, dude, I'm just so fucking hyped for more Hitman, man.
It looks cool. I like the level they were showing off where you're in like the really tall skyscraper. It's gonna be
Yeah, in Dubai.
that
Mhm.
there could be some cool possibilities there. If you know what I mean?
Oh, I can't wait to like throw somebody off that tower and just wait like 30 seconds for like the pop up saying you killed your target.
Hell yes. That's messed up, though.
Man. I mean, it is, yeah. My thank you this week, speaking of Schadenfreude, I didn't get to mention this, goes to Suda51. So in a stream, Suda51 showed off the first actual gameplay footage of No More Heroes 3.
Right.
But in doing so, he fucked with his fans, as he usually does, by blocking almost the entire center of the screen with his body and his head. And instead of talking about the game, he's talking about and showing off all these games that he wants to play during lockdown. So it's just him blocking the screen while this gameplay is going on in the background. It's fucking great.
I
so
kind of heard about that. That sounds hilarious. I wonder, and did they not release that footage afterwards, like unobscured, or is that literally all they have to go on now?
That's all there
fantastic.
is.
That is some that is some like grade A trolling right there. I love it.
Yeah. And my fuck you this week goes to Square Enix. because on Twitter today, for some reason, I saw that Parasite Eve was trending.
Oh no, it's a Bring Me the
And
Horizon
it
song.
wasn't a new Parasite Eve game. It wasn't
No.
anything related to Square. It was Bring Me the Horizon, a band that I don't remember anything about. They did a song about Parasite Eve.
They didn't. It's not a song about Parasite Eve. It's just a song called Parasite Eve.
Okay, yeah. Well, either way, like it mentions things that seem in line with Parasite Eve, the series. And I'm like, fuck you, Square. Where the fuck is a new Parasite Eve, man? Come on. That is a prime. That could be your answer to Resident Evil, and you won't fucking do anything with it.
Nope,
Like,
they won't. I love that.
man.
I love how they released a song and you still managed to make it about fuck Square Enix.
Yeah. Fuck them. Yeah, just fuck Square.
That song's a banger, though. It's a good song.
Also, a final quick thank you to Jaeger. His birthday was yesterday. He turned 30.
Oh yes, that's correct.
His birthday's today, not yesterday.
Sorry, it's the time difference. I made the same mistake earlier.
Tomorrow.
Well, it's tomorrow for him now, but it's still today for us.
I'm confused.
So his birthday's over for him, but his birthday's not over for us.
So happy birthday, Jaeger. We're still celebrating right now.
Yes.
My 4-player minute starts now. My hype goes to, honestly, The Last of Us 2. Not because, I mean, obviously, I finished the game. I'm done with it. But Robin has been out of town, and we were talking the other day, and she's coming back on Saturday, and she's like, can you go ahead and just install the game on my PlayStation? So I was like, fuck yeah, I can. So I did that last night. So I'm ready to sit down with her and kind of re-experience the game through her eyes, because she's like, you know, she hasn't watched anything. She knows nothing about the game, and she's been in the mountains of Colorado for 2 weeks now, completely disconnected. She has no clue what's happening. So I cannot wait to kind of just relive the whole thing again through her. It's going to be a wonderful experience. My thank you, also Last of Us related. The entire team at Naughty Dog, I think it's worth saying, you know, obviously they put a lot of effort into this game. A lot of people did, not just the names that you see constantly thrown around, you know, Neil Druckmann and Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, which all did a fantastic job, but props to the team. You know, we all know how, you know, much work they've put into it, especially given the whole crunch situation we've been hearing so much about. So I think it's worth mentioning. You know, it's terrible that is such an issue in this industry, but for what it's worth, thank you for all the effort put into the game, because it really shows. It's a beautiful fucking game. My fuck you this week goes to you know, I think just general discourse. I think The Last of Us discourse kind of brought it to the surface. Again, this happens all the time, though. It's not just focused on The Last of Us. Just some of the toxicity out there is just so awful in general. It sucks all of the fun out of talking about games sometimes, which is one of my favorite things in the world to do. But like I said earlier in the show, I think our community has been pretty great at it. We've been having some great civil discourse about this game. Even though there are varying opinions even within our community about it. So I've been really enjoying I finished the game on Monday, but I've been talking about it and thinking about it ever since. So I appreciate everyone in our community too for being so good at it. And my sweat, not Last of Us related. We finally got new look at Biomutant yesterday. They released footage of that game finally, new gameplay demo of that game. And I think it still looks great. But Brad made a good point in Discord the other day or earlier today, in that game is either going to be spectacularly great or spectacularly bad, and it's really hard to tell. It was one of our favorite show. Chris, I think it was Chris Davis and I played it at E3 last year, and it was one of our favorite games. We gave it one of our awards. It's really unique, but we don't know how it's going to scale up to a full-sized game. So my hope is that it turns out awesome, because it has so much potential. But man, if it's like a buggy mess, or if it's just not designed well on a general level, if you know, I don't know whatever, there's any number of things that could go wrong with that product. We've only seen a very small like vertical slice of it, so I don't know. I'm worried about it. They're approaching the end of development, and I really want to get my hands on it because I want that game.
Allegedly,
to be good,
the end of development.
Allegedly, I mean they're approaching the end of development. But they're also a smaller team, so that could mean they still have another 6 months to actually finish it. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying, at this point, they've delayed it so long and so many times. Just let it be a next gen exclusive.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to end up being a 2020 game, but who knows? I'm sure the whole COVID situation has not made that situation any easier or any better for anybody, obviously. But yeah, I'm still really excited to see it. So that's my 4-player minute, and that I think is our show. Is there anything that y'all want to say in conclusion before we wrap it up? No,
I'm
ready?
good.
Ready to go. All right, so guys, thank you so much for listening. 4playernetwork.com is of course the website where you can find all of our previous shows. Quick reminder, we recorded a Revival Club podcast a few weeks ago for Okami. I talked with David and Kenton, community guest Kenton, for over an hour, almost an hour and a half, I think, about Okami, and it was a great conversation, so go check that out. We're playing Sleeping Dogs right now, so if you're a supporter at the $3 tier or higher on Patreon or a Twitch subscriber, we invite you to come play along. Having a really great time with that, and I'm pretty close to finishing it, I think. So we'll be recording a podcast for that sometime in early July. But yeah, anyways, that's our show. Thank you so much for listening. We'll get to record that, Last of Us spoiler cast in the not too distant future once everybody here has finished it. And I look forward to it. But for now, tune in next Thursday night for another show. Until then, be safe, wash your hands, don't touch your face, wash your ass, all that stuff. So we'll see you next week. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.